Yeah. There you go. I updated it all so that I don't get hit with a thing. Okay. It says it's streaming on YouTube. View on YouTube. Let's see what's happening. Checking it out. It says that's there. On YouTube. There's me. I hear myself. Yeah, they are. Hey, good. All right, now hit that like. All right, I was getting feedback. That's fun. Okay, now everybody's up and we're good. And welcome and hi, everybody. So we're going to watch from the top and go through all of it, warts and all. I have a feeling on second watch it won't be as painful in a lot of places, but extra painful in a couple. So we'll just go over it. And instead of picking little bits, I'm going to do the whole thing because that's what I do. So I'm ready to watch it with you guys. And let's see if I can set up my window so that, all right, I need to modify this guy right here because of the size of the screen. Boop, like that. And we'll move this up. Give me 1 second. Yeah, here we go. And I got to shrink this thing down so we can see all of it. There we go. All right, that sounds about right. Okay, and by the way, hit the like, give a thumbs up, let everybody know you're here. Super chats and Patreon and all that kind of stuff. And you activate the CC so my aunt can watch, please. On YouTube? Sure. Let me see if I can keep this from feeding back on myself too much. And then I go to YouTube Studio, and then and see what's here. And then we go to live. Takes me a moment. And then options. Okay, I gotta go there. Hold on. Then I have to go to the studio part of it. Where would I go? Yeah, let's just go. It'll open me up in here. No, back up. Silly. The studio is what I need. Where's the button? Okay, there it is. Okay. And then give me a second. Let me see where the stream settings is. Closed captions. On. Oh, it won't allow it. Oh, it only does closed captions on the replay, apparently. Unless I had it preset. I apologize. But YouTube may have its own on there. Sorry about that. I will work on trying to figure out a way to do that. Maybe there's a way I can put that on the bottom all the time. I don't know if it'll allow that many F-bombs. All right, here we go. Let's see. Do I have audio on this? I do not know why I don't have. Oh, I know why. So sometimes do this. They use a copy. They use a different way of crunching their videos when they're doing live stuff, and I have to put it in a different browser or you can't hear the sound. I have this with Newsmax sometimes. We'll jump in here real quick and continue without supporting. Go to accepting the cookies. Simulcast replay.
And your reaction on social media will also be live with surrogates from the campaigns inside.
I gotta squeeze this out. Hold on. Okay, we're almost there.
We're live from Georgia, a key battle
there we go.
State in the race for the White House.
Why is that audio not coming? Oh.
U.S. president will debate the former U.S. president as their party's presumptive nominees, a first in American history. We want to welcome our viewers in the United States and around the world to our studios in Atlanta. This is the CNN presidential debate.
Okay. Yeah, get on with it.
This debate is being produced by CNN and is coming to you live. And Joe Biden
each day.
Each for response.
On 2 minutes.
The rules, yeah.
States, Joe Biden.
Folks, how are you? Great to be here. Thank you.
Okay, yeah. So there's no. Boston Brian was pointing out how there's no like kind of welcome, Mr. President, welcome. They didn't do any of that. He just did it normally.
And please welcome the 45th President of the United States.
I would like you to notice the audio change. So the music that comes out when Biden walks out, it's the regular music.
And please welcome the 45th President.
And then listen to the change in the music when Trump comes out.
Of the United States, Donald Trump.
There's like these weird like guitar hits. Like the song's coming to an end, but it's more forceful than the music that Biden walked on to, which is a bit odd. So just saying. Let me see, 1 second. Those were farts.
Gentlemen, thanks so much for being here. Let's begin the debate, and let's start with the issue that voters consistently say is their top concern, the economy. President Biden, inflation has slowed, but prices remain high. Since you took office, the price of essentials has increased. For example, a basket of groceries that cost $100 then now costs more than $120. And typical home prices have jumped more than 30%. What do you say to voters who feel they are worse off under your presidency than they were under President Trump?
We got to take a look at what I was left when I became president and what Mr. Trump left me. We had an economy that was in free fall. The pandemic was so badly handled. Many people were dying. All he said was, it's not that serious. Just inject a little bleach into your arm. You'll be all right.
All right. Again, right out of the gate, this isn't half bad, right? This is pretty direct. If his voice was clear, our take on what he's saying here would have been fine. It's the quality of his voice that made everybody nervous. And when he went like that, we've seen him talk with a dry voice before. That was a big part of this. Listen to it again. Like, this is a normal answer. It's just so it's feathery because his voice is dry.
The economy collapsed. There were no jobs. Unemployment rate rose to 15%. It was terrible. And so what we had to do is try to put things back together again. And that's exactly what we began to do. We created 15,000 new jobs. We brought out the position where we have 800,000 new manufacturing jobs, but there's more to be done.
He meant 15 million instead of 15,000 new jobs. Again, this is a numbers thing, but the manufacturing jobs was the point he was trying to get to. Again, if you're gonna fuck up a number, he fucked up on the low side. The fact check on him is not 15,000, it's 15 million. Right?
There's more to be done. Working class people are still in trouble. I come from Scranton, Pennsylvania. I come of a household where the kitchen table, if the things weren't able to be met during the month, it was a problem. Price of eggs, the price of gas, the price of housing, the price of a whole range of things. That's why I'm working so hard to make sure I deal with those problems. And we're going to make sure that we reduce the price of housing. We're going to make sure we build 2 million new units. We're going to make sure we cap.
Okay, there's a good start. Again, all of this, during this entire answer, everybody was talking about his voice. The answer itself is rock solid. Just saying.
Rents, so corporate greed can't take over. The combination, what I was left with in corporate greed is the reason why we're in this problem right now. In addition to that, we're in a situation where if you take a look at all that was done in his administration, he didn't do much at all. By the time he left, things were in chaos, literally chaos. And so we put things back together. We created, I said, those jobs. We make sure we had a situation where we brought down the price of prescription drugs, which is a major issue for many people.
Okay, so that's the first institution where he was trying to put in a specific talking point and get it on the boards, which is the prescription drugs. Somebody, whether it was Ron Klain or somebody, like, let's get this on the ball. Let's get this. Make sure we get that on the board right away. Prescription drugs, check.
$15 for a insulin shot as opposed to $400. No senior has to pay more than $200 for any drug, all the drugs they can include beginning next year. And the situation is and we're going to make that available to everybody, to all Americans. So we're working to bring down the price around the kitchen table, and that's what we're going to get done.
All right. Again, nobody heard that answer because they were all focused on his vocal tone. On a second listening of that, rock solid. Somebody just said it looks like he's reading. He's not. That's just from memory. That's just him talking. All of this, all of this was vocal tone. I think that, like, I'm even surprised rewatching this at how solid that answer was.
Thank you, President Trump.
We have the greatest economy in the history of our country. We have never done so well. Everybody was amazed by it. Other countries were copying us. We got hit with COVID, and when we did, we spent the money necessary so we wouldn't end up in a Great Depression, the likes of which we had in 1929. By the time we finished, so we did a great job. We got a lot of credit for the economy, a lot of credit for the military. And
all right, again, braggadocious bullshit. I'm sure everybody on Fox will be happy about this stuff. But he's not. All he's doing is patting himself on the back for the cocked hat he left the country in.
No wars and so many other things. Everything was rocking good. But
everything, we were losing hundreds of thousands of citizens. And this motherfucker just said, in the final year of his presidency, during COVID, with all the job losses, everything was rocking good. Okay. So let's, again, I was all for ready to kind of, and Biden definitely has some major flubs coming up. But I was all for, like, I actually remembered the first answer being worse for Biden. And I kind of, I think I was so affected by the sound of his voice that I kind of, you know, just, I guess, and you get so fucking used to it, that Trump's answer here is fucking blather. Everything was rocking good. Wow.
The thing we never got the credit for, and we should have, is getting us out of that COVID mess. He created mandates that.
Okay, the mandates were created under the Biden administration. They were created under Trump.
It was a disaster for our country, but other than that, we had given them back a country where the stock market actually was higher than pre-COVID, and nobody thought that was even possible. The only jobs he created are for illegal immigrants and bounce back jobs, a bounce back from the COVID. He has not done a good job. He's done a poor job, and inflation's killing our country. It is absolutely killing us.
Thank you, President Biden.
Well, look, the greatest economy in the world. He's the only one who thinks that, I think. I don't know anybody else who thinks he had the greatest economy in the world. And, you know, the fact of the matter is that
Okay, so this is where he was, checking his throat, and I thought he was going to actually go, and get rid of it and be talking again. I think that's what most of us were focusing on at this point. That's a good shot. He's the only person who thinks so. It's pretty direct. He's got these things lined up as responses, but he's trying to hit, 3 points on him when he should have just locked in one. Because Trump was trying to stack a bunch, so he's trying to meet him one for one.
We found ourselves in a situation where his economy, he rewarded the wealthy. He had the largest tax cut in American history, $2 trillion. He raised a deficit larger than any president has in any one term. He's the only president other than Herbert Hoover who's lost more jobs than he had when he began, since Herbert Hoover.
Okay, again, I got to say, in first watching of this, when I first was watching the beginning of this answer came off a lot worse. Yeah. I'm completely honest. Like when I was listening to him the first time, I was like, it seemed, and I think I was affected by the pace and the sound of his voice. But this sounds like a normal Biden answer. It's just scratchy.
The idea that he did something that was significant, and the military, when he was president, they were still killing people in Afghanistan. He didn't do anything about that. When he was president, we were still finding ourselves in a position where you had a notion that we were this safe country. The truth is, I'm the only president this century that doesn't have this decade, that doesn't have any troops dying anywhere in the world like he did.
All right. Again, I remember this answer being a lot rougher. Yeah. No, because you'll cut clips from this. You're going to see a lot of clips on this. Yeah, Biden's got a sore throat, clearly, and they're going to talk about that. But like I have to say, these first two answers, and he has those bigger flubs coming up, which will be a big focus because there's a lot going on. But and I'm curious about this. And thank you. Come visit St. Louis. I will, Halle Berry, eventually. Thank you for the super chats, guys, and support of the show and all that kind of stuff. I was sort of more prepared to go harsher on these answers. Yeah, I know RSI, people will not listen to it again. They're not going to watch it like I'm watching it. But the clips that are pulled, I'm going to, I remembered almost these being harsher. Right? There's definitely a couple of them that are flubby and weird. But a lot of people were like, I was seeing by the end of this answer that it was bad. And it's all vocal tone.
President Trump, I want to follow up if I can.
Yeah. The other thing, too, is there were still people being killed in Afghanistan when he was president. Biden has no soldiers being killed anywhere in the world is the idea. Now, we've lost 2 because they were interdicting they're not in a war zone, but they were interdicting in a arms exchange, and 2 of them fell off the boat over there. Remember that? Right. On the Somali coast. That would be the sort of response to that if you knew about any of this. But yeah, I thought those first 2 answers were way worse when I first heard them. And now they seem very normal.
You respond to him?
Well, I'm going to ask you a follow-up. You can do whatever you want with the minute that we give you. I want to follow up. You want to impose a 10%.
Also, in rewatching, I'm serious about this. This isn't me just kind of like pushing Biden up in this regard. Listening to him talk or whatever, and now that the vocal tone doesn't bother me, he sounds a lot more normal.
% tariff on all goods coming into the U.S. How will you ensure that that doesn't drive prices even higher?
It's not going to drive them higher. It's just going to cause countries that have been ripping us off for years, like China and many others, in all fairness to China. It's going to just force them to pay us a lot of money, reduce our deficit tremendously, and give us a lot of power for other things. But he made a statement. The only thing he was right about is I gave you the largest tax cut in history. I also gave you the largest regulation cut in history. That's why we had all the jobs. And the jobs went down, and then they bounced back, and he's taking credit for bounce-back jobs. You can't do that. He also said he inherited 9%.
Bounce back jobs was a phrase that they pushed a lot, and it was probably his most effective phrase.
Inflation.
It's a lie, but it works.
No, he inherited almost no inflation, and it stayed that way for 14 months, and then it blew up under his leadership because they spent money like a bunch of people that didn't know what they were doing, and they don't.
I think the phrase is spending money like drunken sailors or something, but spending money like a bunch of people who didn't know what they're doing. I would, again, chalk that up to gibberish. There was a lot because of the vocal tone difference. Trump is getting credit for saying things that he did that weren't successful. Like they're going to play back this part or try to look for clips to use from him, and they're not going to find as many as they want. This is horseshit. I don't know what the hell that was.
I don't know what they were doing. It was probably the worst administration in history. There's never been. And as far as Afghanistan is concerned, I was getting out of Afghanistan, but we were getting out with dignity, with strength, with power. He got out. It was the most embarrassing day in the history of our country's life.
President Trump.
Yeah. Also, that phrase stuck out with me as well. In the history of our country's life. And look at him taking a breath. Neither one of these guys are comfortable here. This is a weird format for both of them. They're both reacting oddly to it. But in our country's life, all right. You mean
Trump,
in our history?
8 years.
In the history of our country, in our country's history? Right.
Under both of your administrations, the national debt soared to record highs. And according to a new nonpartisan analysis, President Trump, your administration approved $8.4 trillion.
Oh, by the way, I guarantee that there's no compression on either of these mics, and they are just both of them are basically set up for both of them to be talking at Trump's volume. So Biden sounds quieter because his voice is quieter. That's also going to be a thing.
In new debt. Well, so far, President Biden, you've approved $4.3 trillion in new debt. So, former President Trump, many of the tax cuts that you signed into law are set to expire next year. You want to extend them and go even further, you say. With the U.S. facing trillion-dollar deficits and record debt, Why should top earners and corporations pay even less in taxes than they do now?
Because the tax cuts spurred the greatest economy that we've ever seen just prior to COVID. And even after COVID, it was so strong that we were able to get through COVID much better than just about any other country. But we spurred, that tax spurred. Now, when we cut the taxes, as an example, the corporate tax was cut down to 21% from 39%, plus beyond that.
Plus beyond that, again, whatever. The 21% is the number he's been talking about, and he's been telling CEOs that he wants 20% because it's a nice round number. He doesn't understand why they went to 21. It's just really friggin' odd. Yeah.
We took in more revenue with much less tax, and companies were bringing back trillions of...
No, we didn't, by the way. If we'd have taken in much more revenue with much less tax, it wouldn't have blown a hole in the deficit. That's just silly. This is just fucking ridiculous.
Dollars back into our country. The country was going like never before, and we were ready to start paying down debt. We were ready to start using the liquid gold right under our feet, the oil and gas right under our feet. We were going to have something that nobody else has had. We got hit with COVID.
By the way, for the record, we do have something that nobody else has had. Like, our response to COVID under Biden and since then has been extraordinary. We do have that now. We're producing more oil than we ever have.
We did a lot to fix it. I gave him an unbelievable situation with...
Yes, it was unbelievable. I had 2 untested vaccines, and you had told your people to be afraid of it, and they were dying hand over fist. The last biggest batches of dead from COVID that we experienced in the wave were all red states.
With all of the therapeutics and all of the things that we came up with, we gave him something great. Remember, more people died under his administration, even though we had largely fixed it. More people died under his administration than our administration, and we were right in the middle of it, something which a lot of people don't like to talk about.
Again, that's so friggin' weird. Like, it's the idea that once they got a vaccine and they were able to start distributing it, was within 6 months, like the death rate just tails off like crazy because they're dealing with the fact that he had no plan whatsoever and it was just going to go away.
But he had far more people dying in his administration. He did the mandate, which is a disaster, mandating it. The vaccine went out. He did a mandate on the vaccine, which is the thing that people most objected to about the vaccine. And he did a very poor job, just a very poor job. And I will tell you, not only poor there, but throughout the entire world, we're no longer respected as a country. They don't respect our leadership. They don't respect the United States anymore. We're like a third world nation between weaponization of his...
We're like a third world what? Hold on. Back the fuck up.
Election trying to go after... We're like a third world nation between weapon...
We're like a third world nation.
Of his election, trying to go after his political opponent, all of the things he's done, we've become like a third world nation, and it's a shame. The damage he's done to our country, and I'd love to ask him, and will, why he allowed millions of people to come in here from prisons, jails, and mental institutions to come into our country and destroy our country.
President Trump, we will get to immigration later in this block. President Biden, I want to give you an opportunity to respond to this question about the national debt.
He had the largest national debt of any president in a 4-year period, number one. Number two, that $2 trillion tax cut benefited the very wealthy. What I'm going to do is fix the tax system. For example, we have 1,000 trillionaires in America. Billionaires in America. And what's happening?
Okay, again, this is not an abnormal flow of trillionaires versus billionaires because they're talking about trillions in the deficit and blah, blah, blah. And again, he fixes it right away. He doesn't have to wait a whole other sentence to fix nation into nation. Again, normal answer. It's his raspy voice that killed it. That's it.
Situation where they, in fact, pay 8.2% in taxes. If they just paid 24%, 25%, either one of those numbers, they'd raise $500 billion, I should say, in a 10-year period. We'd be able to wipe out his debt. We'd be able to help make sure that all those things we need to do, child care, elder care, making sure that we continue to strengthen our health care system, making sure that we're able to make every single solitary person eligible for what I've been able to do with the with the COVID, with dealing.
He meant prescription drugs. That's where he's going.
With everything we have to do with, look, if
Yeah, so this was the biggest flub in here, like, and that was the one that made everybody nervous. So far, though, up to that point, rock solid. Like, he was banging some stuff out, and he was like, I'm running out of time. How do I reshape this? He does this a bunch when he starts realizing he's being a senator, not a president, and he goes on another. But this is the worst part, yeah.
we finally beat Medicare.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump?
Well, he's right. He did beat Medicare. He beat it to death, and he's destroying Medicare because all of these people are coming in. They're putting them on Medicare. They're putting them on Social Security. They're going to destroy Social Security. This man is going to single-handedly destroy Social Security.
All right. And again, this is where he's saying that immigrants are going to be on Social Security. They're going to, and I don't, again, immigrants, by and large, especially undocumented people, pay into Social Security and never get the money out. It is one of the things that has been used as a ballast. Yeah, the beat Medicare, I don't know quite, like he beat the pharmaceutical companies is, I think, where he was going with it. But whatever. That's what that became. And he beat it to death. And Medicare's not in trouble. Like, this is dumb. It as a response to that, like, he beat it to death. Like, it sounds like a hit, but it means nothing. Right, I agree. I think he was running out of time. You could see the time was coming up, and they're going to cut your mic off. So he was like, we beat them at Medicare, blah blah blah. Like, that's where he was going. But it doesn't matter. That's going to be the clip from it. But the beginning of the answer, I was like, again, watching it again, rock solid.
These millions and millions of people coming in, they're trying.
And then this is just him like shitting out stuff he says at campaigns.
Trying to put them on Social Security. He will wipe out Social Security. He will wipe out Medicare. So he was right in the way he finished that sentence. And it's a shame. What's happened to our country in the last 4 years is not to be believed. Foreign countries, I'm friends with a lot of people. They cannot believe what happened to the United States of America. We're no longer respected. They don't like us.
Yeah, this is super weird too. This is him going up like, I'm friends with a lot of people, and people don't respect America, and they don't like us. Like, it's super weird.
Everything they want, and they think we're stupid. They think we're very stupid people. What we're doing for other countries, and they do nothing for us. What this man has done is absolutely criminal.
Thank you.
What are you talking about? Does anybody know what the fuck that was about? I'm dead serious. Because, again, everybody's attention was on Biden because of his raspy voice. And that last flub didn't help in the beat. But does anybody know what the fuck he just said? For real. I have no idea. I'm trying to grasp the whole pattern of where he's going with this, but what he's done is criminal in terms of what? What you think he did with Medicare, or the fact that your foreign friends don't like us anymore? It's fucking weird. So while we were all focused on how Biden did, look at Trump. Look at him. Look at his, Biden's engaged, and he clearly is like, he's got his, he's making notes. You can see his mouth moving when he's making notes or whatever. And again, the raspy voice is what fucked him. But look at Trump. Look at his face. He doesn't even know what he just said. Again, on the rewatch, I'm feeling better about this. Will anybody else? Will the news story be, they'll take, Biden's flubs and run it on a loop? Whatever. Yes.
President Trump. Tana?
This is the first presidential election.
I think Biden has his second big flub right after this. So we're like 2 in a row, and then that was that.
Since the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade. This morning, the court ruled on yet another abortion case, temporarily allowing emergency abortions to continue in Idaho, despite that state's restrictive ban. Former President Trump, you take credit for the decision to overturn Roe v. Wade, which returned the issue of abortion to the states.
Correct.
However, the federal government still plays a role in whether or not women have access to abortion pills. They're used in about 2/3 of all abortions. As president, would you block abortion medication?
First of all, the Supreme Court just approved the abortion pill, and I agree with their decision to have done that. and I will not block it. And if you look at this whole question that you're asking, complex but not really complex. 51 years ago, you had Roe v. Wade, and everybody wanted to get it back to the states.
2 years ago, we had Roe v. Wade.
It's everybody, without exception. Democrats, Republicans, liberals, conservatives, everybody wanted it back.
All right. Biden's response right there. Same response I always have when this motherfucker brings this up. And look at Trump's face right now and look at Biden's. The idea is that, again, and I've said this before, Biden, because he's old, when he goes, what the fuck, looks like an old guy as opposed to when I do it or when you do it if you're younger. And that's just part of it. But look at Trump in this situation. Look at him. He's not handling this well. And Biden shook his head like, the idea that everybody wanted this done is ridiculous. Again, we'll watch his answer again. Watch Biden's answer again after this. And he's trying to get a bunch of stuff in. But we'll look at
religious leaders. And what I did is I put 3 great Supreme Court justices on the court, and they happened to vote in favor of killing Roe v. Wade and moving it back to the states. This is something that everybody wanted.
And again, this storyline is horseshit. No. Hi. Mm-hmm. Okay, hold on one second. Yeah, I'm going to do the whole, I'm rewatching it the whole way through. It's actually better on the second watch. I feel better about it. I do. Good night. Ding, ding, ding.
I'm gonna go
what?
sleep it off.
Yes, I understand. Don't worry, I got it covered. I got it locked down. Everybody's coming to me for reassurance. It's good. Again, second time over. And by the way, yes, I'm just delusional. That's fine. We'll just watch this. I call it out when he's flubbing stuff. But let's, again, I think we were all overcommitted to Biden's voice, and it allowed Trump's bullshit to slip by.
Now, 10 years ago or so, they started talking about how many weeks and how many this, getting into other things. But every legal scholar throughout the world, the most respected, wanted it brought back to the states. I did that. Now the states are working it out. If you look at Ohio, it was a decision that was an end result that was a little bit more liberal than you would have thought. Kansas, I would say the same thing. Texas is different. Florida is different. But they're all making their own decisions right now. And right now, the states control it. That's the vote of the people. Like Ronald Reagan, I believe in the exceptions. I am a person that believes. And frankly,
I am a person that believes.
I think it's important to believe in the exceptions. Some people, you have to follow your heart. Some people don't believe in that. But I believe in the exceptions for rape, incest, and the life of the mother. I think it's very important. Some people don't. Follow your heart. But you have to get elected also. And because that has to do with...
This is the thing he talks about in rallies, because he doesn't want the evangelicals to kick him out of, or not back him.
Other things. You got to get elected. The problem they have is they're radical, because they will take the life of a child in the 8th month, the 9th month, and even after birth. After birth, if you look at the former governor of Virginia, he was willing to do this. He said, we'll put the baby aside and we'll determine what we do with the baby, meaning we'll kill the baby. What happened is we brought it back to the states, and the country is now coming together on this issue. It's been a great thing.
Thank you. President Biden?
It's been a terrible thing, what you've done. The fact is that the vast majority of constitutional scholars supported Roe when it was decided. Supported Roe. And that's this idea that they were all against it is just ridiculous. And this is the guy who says the state should be able to have it. We're in a state where in 6 weeks, you don't even know whether you're pregnant or not, but you cannot see a doctor, and have him decide on what your circumstances are, whether you need help. The idea that states are able...
Okay, so he's conflating two things here, but fairly solid up to this point. That's the point. He's like, it's ridiculous. We're in a state where in 6 weeks you don't even know if you're pregnant, but they can't decide about what you're going to do.
To do this is a little like saying we're going to turn civil rights back to the states. Let each state have a different rule. Look, there's so many young women who have been, including a young woman who just was murdered, and he went to the funeral. The idea that she was murdered by an immigrant coming in. They talk about that, but here's the deal: there's a lot of young women who are being raped by their in-laws, by their spouses, brothers and sisters, by It's just ridiculous, and they can do nothing about it. And they try to arrest them when they cross state lines.
Thank you.
Okay, so they cut him off in the middle of this. So brothers and sisters, he means brothers raping sisters is clearly what he's saying. That I get that it was flubbed up, but you could tell he was running out of time for his rebuttal. You could see the clock, and he's like trying to squeeze it in, and she goes, "Thank you," on that answer.
There have been many young women murdered by the same people he allows to come across our border. We have a border that's the most dangerous place anywhere in the world, considered the most dangerous place anywhere in the world.
And also, not even remotely close to true.
And he opened it up, and these killers are coming into our country, and they are raping and killing women. And it's a terrible thing.
By the way, go at some point, anybody, go and look at the number of women who were murdered or sexually assaulted during his presidency by immigrants, and undocumented immigrants. The number is almost exactly the same as it has been over the last 4 years. And if you're talking about, there's been this ginormous increase in people, in immigration. Like there's been, millions more people crossing under Biden. If that number is static, what does that say about the immigrants in general that Biden is letting them, is letting in? Because it's static. The quote unquote migrant crime, they want to make a bigger issue of it, but the number is the same as it was under Trump. With, by the way, his allegedly closed down border and the wall and all that shit.
As far as the abortion is concerned, it is now back with the states. The states are voting. In many cases, it's frankly a very liberal decision. In many cases, it's the opposite. But they're voting, and it's bringing it back to the vote of the people, which is what everybody wanted, including the founders, if they knew about this issue, which, frankly, they didn't. But they would have. Everybody wanted it brought back. Ronald Reagan wanted it brought back. He wasn't able to get it. Everybody wanted it brought back, and many presidents had tried to get it back. I was the one to do it. And again, this gives it the vote of the people, and that's where they wanted it. Every legal scholar wanted it that way.
Staying on the topic of abortion, President Biden,
And there he wanted to answer, but that's just a lie. That seriously, there is this whole him passing the buck will be a big story for a while too. Every legal scholar did not want it. None of them did. And what he means is everybody around him, everybody from the Heritage Foundation that picked his judges, they all wanted it. But this idea that they want to, in general, everybody wants a kickback and state is bullshit.
7 states, I'll let you do that. This is the same topic.
He's like, he wanted to respond.
7 states have no legal restrictions on how far into a pregnancy a woman can obtain an abortion. Do you support any legal limits on how late a woman should be able to terminate a pregnancy?
I supported Roe v. Wade, which had 3 trimesters. The first time is between the woman and the doctor. Second time is between the doctor and an extreme situation. The third time is between the doctor, between the woman and the state. The idea that the politicians...
So that's what they're saying. So Roe v. Wade, that's the definition of how it worked out. First trimester, a woman goes to her doctor. She can have one. It's up to her. Second trimester, a doctor will go, okay, you're over the legal limit for the first trimester, but you might need a therapeutic abortion. After that, there's a law about the exceptions and the available, like some states shut down clinics, for example. And that's kind of what he's relating to. But that's exactly how it laid out.
The founders wanted the politicians to be the ones making decisions about women's health is ridiculous. That's the last. No politician should be making that decision. A doctor should be making those decisions. That's how it should be run. That's what you're going to do. And if I'm elected, I'm going to restore Roe v. Wade.
Okay. Again, if you're listening to him describe Roe v. Wade, absolutely the law forever, worked just fine. And him saying that the founders, anybody who believes the founders wanted doctors, politicians to decide make medical decisions is absurd. And he'll restore Roe v. Wade. Rock solid answer. Again, raspy voice and this kind of what the fuck look on his face made everybody buy into this after the flub that it was a bigger deal than it was.
So that means he can take the life of the baby in the 9th month and even after birth, because some states, Democrat run, take it after birth. Again, the former governor of Virginia.
And you see Biden going, not true.
Virginia, put the baby down, then we decide what to do with it. So he's willing to, as we say, rip the baby out of the womb in the 9th month and kill the baby. Nobody wants that to happen, Democrat or Republican. Nobody wants it to happen.
That is simply not true. The Roe v. Wade does not provide for that. That's not the circumstance. Only if a woman's life is in danger, she's going to die. That's the only circumstance in which that can happen. But we are not for late-term abortion, period. Period, period.
Under Roe v. Wade, you have late-term abortion. You can do whatever you want, depending on the state. You can do whatever you want. We don't think that's a good thing. We think it's a radical thing. We think the Democrats...
And by the way, that's not true. Like, there are varying degrees of how in danger the woman has to be. Some states are harsher on it, so a woman has to prove it. But nobody's ever had a problem getting a late-term medical abortion up until he got rid of this shit. Again, I got to say, I was a lot more flustered by these answers that Biden was giving on the first watch. The second watch, it's like, no, he's actually saying what he should be saying. It's the voice.
It's the radicals, not the Republicans.
For 51 years, that was the law. 51 years, constitutional scholarship said it was the right way to go. 51 years, and it was taken away because this guy put very conservative members on the Supreme Court. He takes credit for taking it away. What's he going to do? What's he going to do, in fact, if the MAGA Republicans, he gets elected, and the MAGA Republicans control the Congress, and they pass a universal ban on abortion, period, across the board at 6 weeks or 7 or 8 or 10 weeks, something very, very conservative. Is he going to sign that bill? I'll veto it. He'll sign it.
Thank you.
Let's turn now to the issue of immigration and border security. President Biden, a record number...
Yeah, he didn't get to, like, I don't even know what he was going to... He absolutely will sign it. But again... I didn't have a problem with that answer. The first time I watched it, I was like, because, again, I guess his voice was fucking with me the most. I was expecting this to be worse on the rewatch. I got to be honest. I'm catching more of the stuff I like the second time around.
Number of migrants have illegally crossed the southern border on your watch. Overwhelming border states and overburdening cities such as New York and Chicago, and in some cases causing real safety and security concerns. Given that, why should voters trust you to solve this crisis?
Because we worked very hard to get a bipartisan agreement that not only changed all of that, it made sure that we are in a situation where you had no circumstance where they could come across the border with the number of border police there are now. We significantly increased the number of asylum officers. By the way, the Border Patrol endorsed my position. In addition to that, we found ourselves in a situation where when he was president, he was separating babies from their mothers, putting them in cages, making sure the families were separated. That's not the right way to go. What I've done since I've changed the law, what's happened? I've changed it in a way that now you're in a situation where there are 40% fewer people coming across the border illegally. That's better than when he left office.
All right, that's a good number. You could have gotten that quicker. 40% lower than when he left office. That works.
I'm going to continue to move until we get the total ban on the total initiative relative to what we can do with more Border Patrol and more asylum officers.
President Trump?
I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence. I don't think he knows what he said either. Look, we had the safest border in the...
Okay, so that was the hit that everybody's going to look at, and he's looking over at him like, you disgust me. But again, this is an old guy face problem. But the end of that was like the word ban he used, and that was the flub. The rest of it was like, until we get all the border officers we need and asylum officers. That's part of the policy. Okay.
The history of our country. The border, all he had to do was leave it. All he had to do was leave it. He decided to open up our border, open up our country to people that are from prisons, people that are from mental institutions, insane asylum, terrorists. We have the largest number of terrorists coming into our country right now, all terrorists, all over the world, not just in South America, all over the world. They come from the Middle East, everywhere. All over the world, they're pouring in. And this guy just left it open. And he didn't need legislation, because I didn't have legislation. I said close.
By the way, yes, he did. Title 42, he was able to put that in because of COVID. He was able to use Title 42 to close the border, technically, because of COVID. It was a health emergency. That's how he used it. Unless you want to go back to COVID lockdowns, that's how that's the only impetus you could use it for, legally. If you want Title 42 back, we need to have a nationwide health emergency, which has all sorts of other things that it triggers.
Close the border. We had the safest border in history in that final couple of months of my presidency.
Yes, when everyone was dying, no one wanted to come here. When we had no economy,
we had, according to Border Patrol, who is great, and by the way, who endorsed me for president, but I won't say that, but they endorsed me for president. Brandon, just speak to him. But look, we had
Brandon, just speak to him. You mean Dark Brandon? What he means is the union endorsed it or whatever. Biden said they endorsed my position, which means they wanted what was in the bill. That's what he was talking about.
The safest border in history.
He even corrected. He said they endorsed my position.
Now we have the worst border in history. There's never
no, we don't.
Been anything like it. And people are dying all over the place, including the people that are coming up in caravans.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden?
The only terrorist who's done anything crossing the border is one who came along and killed three, under his administration, killed an al-Qaeda person come in his administration, killed three American soldiers. That's the only terrorist that's there. I'm not saying that no terrorist ever got through, but the idea they're emptying their prisons, we're welcoming these people, that's simply not true. There's no data to support what he said. Once again, he's exaggerating, he's lying.
Okay, so this was interesting too, because he brings up an al-Qaeda guy came across the border during Trump's administration, killed 3 U.S. service members. That we haven't had anything like that during Biden's presidency. And he goes, there's no data to back up the storyline about they're coming out of prisons. I think he could have hit him harder about it, but pretty rock solid. Listen to Trump's response on this, because this is one that stuck out to me.
President Trump, staying on the topic of immigration, you've said that you're going to carry out, quote, the largest domestic deportation operation in American history, unquote. Does that mean that you will deport every undocumented immigrant in America, including those who have jobs, including those whose spouses are citizens, and including those who have lived here for decades? And if so, how will you do it?
Just 1 second. He said we killed 3 people. The people we killed are al-Baghdadi and Sal.
He's like, no. I didn't say we killed 3 people. He said an al-Qaeda person came across the border and killed 3 of our people. See what I mean? Listen to that again. Like he just described, for all the fucking brain fart storylines about Biden, up to this point, we have 2 points where he's stammering because he's trying to get to a point before he runs out the clock. Or trying to feed too many details into something. Meanwhile, what the fuck is this?
Alamani.
Hold on.
And if so, how will you do it?
Just 1 second. He said we killed 3 people.
No, he didn't. He said a guy from al-Qaeda came across the border and killed 3 of our people. And this is Trump's response to that. It was so weird.
The people we killed are al-Baghdadi and Soleimani, the 2 greatest terrorists, biggest terrorists anywhere in the world. And it had a huge impact on it.
That's 2, by the way. He said we killed 3 people. The people we killed were 2 people. And also not even the story. Not even, good Lord.
Everything, not just border.
That's why, if you watch this again, it's funny, because
everything.
I got to be honest. I was expecting this to be a kind of morose rewatch a little bit and go, ugh. But now Biden's what the fuck face makes so much more sense. Right?
He's the one that killed people with the bad water, including hundreds of thousands of people dying and also killing our citizens when they come in.
Also, like hundreds of thousands. What the ever-loving fuck is he talking about? That's the thing. Like, these are so, like, absurd. Of course Biden looks like he's, like, been hit with a board, because this is bullshit. He's, like, going, this whole, like, how do you respond to this? This is a good question. How do you respond to other than just going, that's the biggest bunch of malarkey I've ever heard in my life? Especially when you're talking about the deaths of innocent people or whatever. This is why Trump can stack these lies, because he'll take a true story about somebody who died. And by the way, on equal number to the people that died during his administration. Again, the number of like migrant murders and rapes and all that kind of stuff equal to when he was in office. And allegedly there are 10 times more people coming across the border during Biden's administration, right? right? So how I guess migrant crime is going down under Biden than per capita, right? That's what he's saying. But again, all right, it's gibberish. And so what do you do other than go, what the fuck is this guy talking about?
We are living right now in a rat's nest. They're killing our people in New York, in California, in every state.
We are not living in a rat's nest
In the union, because we don't have borders anymore. Every state is now a border. And because of his...
Every state is now a border. Okay. The phrase is every state's now a border state. Do you think anybody will jump on that weird sentence the way they jumped on Biden's flubs? No, because it's a stammer. The interesting thing is Biden's fuck-ups happen with his stammer. And so it's easier to read off as he's rushing or saying something else. But Trump stuff is just a loud, dumbass, like he does it through a bullhorn.
Ridiculous, insane, and very stupid policies. People are coming in and they're killing our citizens at a level that we've never seen. We call it migrant crime. I call it Biden migrant crime. They're killing our citizens at a level that we've never seen before. And you're reading it like these three incredible young girls over the last few days. One of them, I just spoke to the mother, and they just had the funeral for this girl, 12 years old. This is horrible what's taken place. What's taken place in our country.
By the way, I posted right after somebody like posted to me like, one of these like Hal Sparks is okay with this about that particular case. And I was like, then I guess by comparison, you're okay with this. And I put a very similar case from 2019 that happened under Trump. Never heard a fucking word about it on Fox. Like, you think they could recite her fucking name the way they do the ones right now? No.
We're literally an uncivilized country now.
No, we are not.
He doesn't want it to be. He just doesn't know. He opened the borders. Nobody's ever seen anything like. And we have to get a lot of these people out, and we have to get them out fast because they're going to destroy our country. Just take a look at where they're living. They're living in luxury hotels in New York City and other places. Our veterans are on the street. They're dying because he doesn't care about our veterans. He doesn't care. He doesn't like the military at all. And he doesn't care about our veterans. Nobody been.
Okay, he's writing right now.
Worse.
Again, this is what Boston Brian was talking about. He's absolutely right. Just make your note. I don't know if there's a shorthand for it that you come up with. That would probably be the easiest way to do it. But he's writing his notes out because there's so much bullshit in this. You're like, okay, what can I hit of this pile of garbage?
Highest approval rating for veterans taking care of the VA. He has the worst. He's gotten rid of all the things that I approved. Choice that I got through Congress.
Okay. Again, here's the big story takeaway. This is you want a big takeaway, kids? Here it is. And I can't believe this dumbass actually managed to do this again. And again, you want to talk about shit that wasn't fact checked live. VA Choice Act of 2014. I have been fucking on this shit for so long, and he's still he fucking rolls out this zombie lie about veterans again. Like he's in such a fucking hurry to lie. He drops this one. HR 3230. Veterans Access, Choice and Accountability Act 2014. It was signed into law by Barack Obama. Originally, Representative Hal Rogers of Kentucky, a Republican, did the original draft, sponsored it. It made it through. It was a bipartisan bill. It didn't have any problem at all. Sailed right the hell through. I don't know if they have the final vote on here. But I mean, it became law. Yeah, there we go. On August 7th, 2014. There was no problem. There was no issue. This would be in a normal situation. All Biden, trying to rush and flubbing aside and everybody panicking. Trump just lied to and about veterans again after dropping the zombie lie for years. He did not do the VA Choice Act of 2014. Jake Tapper and Dana Bash. oh my fucking God. That's why Biden's like, this motherfucker.
All of the different things I approved, they abandoned.
He didn't do shit. They did not abandon it. They started it. The Obama-Biden administration shepherded it through. Biden was one of the people who actually walked it through. It's just nonsense.
And we had by far the highest, and now it's down in less than half.
No, it is not. The VA is not getting less than half approval rating from, it's absurd.
Because he's done all these great things that we did, and I think he did it just because I approved it, which is crazy. But he has killed so many people at our border by allowing all of these people to come in. And it's a very sad day in America.
President Biden, you have the mic.
Every single thing he said is a lie.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, it was.
Every single one. For example, veterans are a hell of a lot better off since I passed the PACT Act. 1 million of them now have insurance, and their families have it. Their families have it because what happened, whether it was Agent Orange or burn pits, they're all being covered now. And his group opposed that. We're also in a situation where we have great respect for veterans. My son spent a year in Iraq, living next to one of those burn pits, came back with stage 4 glioblastoma. I was recently in France for D-Day, and I spoke all about those heroes that died. I went to the World War I cemetery he refused to go to. He was standing with his 4-star general, and he told me, he said, I don't want to go in there because they're a bunch of losers and suckers. My son was not a loser, was not a sucker. You're the sucker. You're the loser.
All right. Again, solid answer all the way through. The only thing hamstringing it is a mild arousal of his stutter and his voice. PACT Act, absolutely. And then brings up the suckers and losers part.
President Trump?
First of all, that was a made-up quote, suckers and losers. They made it up. It was in a third-rate magazine that's failing, like many of these magazines. He made that up. He put it in commercial.
Also, he made that up. Like, that wasn't Biden that made that up. If you're going to accuse anyone of, quote-unquote, making that up, it was your chief of staff.
Commercials. We've notified him. We had 19 people that said I didn't say it. And think of this. Who would say,
who weren't there?
Hey, I'm at a cemetery or I'm talking about our veterans because nobody's taken better care. I'm so glad this came up and he brought it up. There's nobody that's taken better care of our soldiers than I have. To think that I would, in front of generals and others, say suckers and losers. We have 19 people that said it was never said by me.
Yeah, because he didn't say it in front of them.
It was made up by him, just like Russia was made up, just like the 51 intelligence agents are made up, just like the new thing with the 16 economists are talking. It's the same thing. 51 intelligence agents said that the laptop was Russia disinformation. It wasn't. That came from his son, Hunter. It wasn't Russia disinformation. He made up the suckers and losers, so he should apologize to me right now.
4-star general standing to your side who was on your staff who said you said it, period. That's number one. And number two, the idea that I have to apologize to you for anything along the line. We've done more for veterans than any president has in American history. And they now are in their family. The only sacred obligation we have as a country is to care for our veterans when they come home and their families and equip them when they go to war. That's what we're doing. That's what the VA is doing now. They're doing more for veterans than ever before in our history.
All right. Thank you so much.
All right. Again, in rewatching that, I remember that answer being worse. Seriously. And you guys know I like the guy, but I was fully expecting us to just kind of like, be this like a circle the wagons almost kind of live stream. But that was pretty rock solid. The only thing that's rough right now is his voice. And again, this would be the thing. If there was a single note for the whole night, it would have been in the beginning, excuse my voice, I have a sore throat. Would have fucking, like, all of these answers on Rewatch would have come across as perfectly fine. Just that bit. If he had simply said that. Also, and again, I think the Trump said a bunch of shit tonight, but the fact that he's taking credit for the VA Choice Act of 2014 is fucking grotesque. Yeah. I'm not making excuses. I'm literally saying that would be my note. If he would have said in the beginning, pardon my voice, most of these answers, people would have had none of the issue with a bunch of these answers that they had.
Let's move to the topic of foreign policy. I want to begin with Russia's war against Ukraine, which is now in its third year. Former President Trump, Russian President Vladimir Putin says he'll only end this war if Russia keeps the Ukrainian territory it has already claimed and Ukraine abandons its bid to join NATO. Are Putin's terms acceptable to you?
First of all, our veterans and our soldiers can't stand this guy.
Right. Again, this is because he surrounds himself with kind of the butch types that, I don't know, this is like him thinking that every soldier acts like the UFC, and the only people that he thinks are in the military are the actual fighting members of the military. That's another aspect of it. The rest are the help.
They can't stand him. They think he's the worst commander-in-chief, if that's what you call him, that we've ever had. They can't stand him. So let's get that straight. And they like me more than just about any of them. And that's based on every single bit of information. As far as Russia and...
Think about what he just said. That's based on just about every bit of information, available bit of information. What? What you mean are polls, I think, but nobody's polling them. So you're only hearing from the people that like you, and you don't listen to anybody else. Like, that's just silly.
Ukraine. If we had a real president, the president that knew, that was respected by Putin, he would have never invaded Ukraine. A lot of people are dead right now, much more than people know. You know, they talk about numbers. You can double those numbers, maybe triple those numbers. He did nothing to stop it. In fact, I think he encouraged Russia from going in. I'll tell you what happened.
He encouraged Russia from going in.
He was so bad with Afghanistan. It was such a horrible embarrassment, most embarrassing moment in the history of our country, that when Putin watched that and he saw the incompetence, that he should have fired those generals, like I fired the one that you mentioned, and so he's got no love lost. But he should have fired those generals. No general.
See, that's the problem. There's Biden going. That was just fine. That actually, I think people perked up on the internet when they saw him saying stuff, even though his mic's off. It was clear he shot at him and it landed. This is where, we can't hear what he's saying, but Trump can.
General got fired for the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country, Afghanistan, where we left billions of dollars of equipment behind. We lost 13 beautiful soldiers, and 38 soldiers were obliterated. And by the way, we left people behind, too. We left American citizens behind. When Putin saw that, he said, you know what? I think we're going to go in and maybe take this was his dream. I talked to him about it, his dream. The difference is he never would have invaded Ukraine. Never. Just like Israel would have never been invaded in a million years by Hamas.
Which is just, again, this has got to be, there's got to be more media pushback on this bullshit. Because this, he constantly says this never would have happened. This, you can't prove a negative part, so he just counts on that. Yeah, he's Barbie. She says Putin's dream. Yeah, he also says it was the apple of his eye. This weird thing. It's just an odd fixation that he has. And of course, the idea is why wouldn't they have? What Hamas has made it it's in their mission to destroy Israel. So the idea that you would even say in a million years is just kind of a childish exaggeration in and of itself.
You know why? Because Iran was broke with me. I wouldn't let anybody do business with them. They made
$6 billion selling oil to South Korea. That's where the money for the hostages was going to come from.
Ran out of money. They were broke. They had no money for Hamas. They had no money for anything. No money for terror. That's why you had no terror at all during my administration.
Right. Of course you did.
This place, the whole world is blowing up under him.
President Biden?
I've never heard so much malarkey in my whole life. Look, the fact of the matter is that we're in a situation where, let's take the last point first. Iran attacked American troops, caused brain damage for a number of these troops, and he did nothing about it. Recently, not when he was president. They attacked. He said they're just having headaches. That's all it is. He didn't do a thing. when the attack took place, number one. Number two, we got over 100,000 Americans and others out of Afghanistan during that airlift. Number three, we found ourselves in a situation where if you take a look at what Trump did in Ukraine, this guy told Trump, do whatever you want, and do whatever you want. And that's exactly what Trump...
That's where he swaps Trump's name and Putin's name.
...did to Putin, encourage him, do whatever...
And he fixes it.
...you want. And he went in. Listen to what he said when he went in. He was going to take Kyiv in 5 days, remember? Because it's part of the old Soviet Union. That's what he wanted to reestablish. Kyiv. And he, in fact, didn't do it at all. He wasn't able to get it done. And they've lost thousands and thousands of troops, 500,000 troops.
There you go. That's I also have to say, Boston Brian and I talked about this answer during his broadcast right after, and I got to say the time when I'm watching this the first time, the time between thousands and thousands to 500,000 seemed like a longer pause to me when I was watching it at that moment, and now it's just right on top of it.
They've lost thousands and thousands of troops, 500,000 troops.
He just, right? And I think the voice had something to do with it. This was part of that issue. But watching it again, I honestly, I don't know why I thought there was a bigger delay between the thousands and thousands and 500,000. It was instant. He was getting it in before the end of the time. Just, you know what I mean? It's just interesting because I perceived this as worse the first time I watched it. Yeah.
President Trump,
I
as
never
I come back
said
to you
that.
for 1 minute, I just want to go back to my original question, which is, are Putin's terms acceptable to you? Keeping the territory in Ukraine?
No, they're not acceptable. But look, this is a war that never should have started. If we had a leader in this war, he led everybody along. He's given $200 billion now or more to Ukraine. He's given $200 billion. That's a lot of money. I don't think there's ever been anything like it. Every time that...
I mean, except every other war we've ever been in. Iraq was $6 trillion. And how about this? You don't even have to go to the Bush-Iraq war. How about George H.W. Bush, which was not us attacked by Iraq or even the false perception that they had something to do with 9/11, right? Specifically, in the original Iraq war, we attacked Iraq because they were attacking Kuwait. Remember that? This is a very similar situation. There's a lot more parity between that and Russia attacking Ukraine. Obviously not on the same scale, but certainly the political machinations of it. And George H.W. Bush, we spent way more money on that. And that war was like 11 days.
Zelensky comes to this country, he walks away with $60 billion. He's the greatest salesman ever. And I'm not knocking him. I'm not knocking anything. I'm not
knocking anything. Apparently, yeah, you are.
Saying the money that we're spending on this war, and we shouldn't be spending, it should have never happened. I will have that war settled between Putin and Zelensky as president-elect before I take office on January 20th. I'll have that war settled. People being killed so needlessly, so stupidly, and I will get it settled, and I'll get it settled fast before I take office.
I will get it settled before I take office. So if he wins the election, he'll get it settled before he takes the oath of office or before the election. Yeah, make the fucking phone call, dummy. I mean, he can't because, you can't have two foreign policy things. But if he could negotiate it, we sent Dennis Rodman to North Korea, right? Why can't he be our... You know what? Go to Russia and talk to him personally.
President Biden, you have a minute.
The fact is that Putin is a war criminal. He's killed thousands and thousands of people. And he has made one thing clear. He wants to reestablish what was part of the Soviet Empire, not just a piece. He wants all of Ukraine. That's what he wants. And then you think he'll stop there? Do you think he'll stop when if he takes Ukraine? What do you think happens to Poland? What do you think of Belarus? What do you think happens to those NATO countries? And so if you want a war, you ought to find out what he's going to do, because if in fact he does what he says.
Oh, by the way, when he says you ought to find out what he's going to do, he points to Trump. That's what that lean is. But the box, you can't see that he's gesturing. So you don't know in this answer whether he's talking about Putin or you better find out what Putin's going to do. He just explained to you what Putin's going to do. What he's doing, he's pointing at Trump. You could see his arm come up and that, but it doesn't read. Because I didn't notice that the first time around. I just thought he kind of flubbed Trump versus Putin in that moment. Didn't happen.
Says and walks away. And by the way, all that money we give Ukraine are from weapons we make here in the United States. We give them the weapons, not the money at this point. And our NATO allies have produced as much funding for Ukraine as we have. That's why we're strong.
All right, that worked.
Thank you. Moving on to the Middle.
All right, that was that's a great answer to that. Again, the only thing holding him back in this moment is his voice. All right.
East. In October, Hamas attacked Israel, killing more than 1,000
Never would have happened.
people and taking hundreds of hostages. Among those held and thought to still be alive are 5 Americans. Israel's response has killed thousands of Palestinians and created a humanitarian crisis in Gaza. President Biden, you've put forward a proposal to resolve this conflict, but so far Hamas...
How can this be re-aired with the chat? Yes, I believe so. If you guys rewatch this, the chat will be with it. You can watch the chat as it goes along. Absolutely.
Has not released the remaining hostages, and Israel is continuing its military offensive in Gaza. So what additional leverage will you use to get Hamas and Israel to end the war? You have 2 minutes.
Number one, everyone from the United Nations Security Council straight through to the G7 to the Israelis and Netanyahu himself have endorsed the plan I put forward. Which has 3 stages to it. The first stage is trade the hostages for a ceasefire. Second phase is a ceasefire with additional conditions. The third phase is the end of the war. The only one who wants the war to continue is Hamas, number one. They're the only ones standing out. We're still pushing hard to get them to accept. In the meantime, what's happened? In Israel, we're finding that the only thing I've denied Israel was 2,000-pound bombs. They don't work very well in populated areas. They kill a lot of innocent people. We're providing Israel with all the weapons they need and when they need them. And by the way, I'm the guy that organized the world against Iran when they had a full-blown intercontinental ballistic missile attack on Israel. No one was hurt. No one Israeli was accidentally killed, and it just stopped. We saved Israel. We are the biggest producer of support for Israel of anyone in the world. And so there are 2 different things. Hamas cannot be allowed to be continued. We continue to send our experts and our intelligence people as to how they can get Hamas like we did bin Laden. You don't have to do it. And by the way, they've been greatly weakened, Hamas, greatly weakened, and they should be. They should be eliminated. But you've got to be careful for using certain weapons among population centers.
Just going back to Ukraine for...
Okay, so again, trying to stack... This is where Boston Brian and I were talking about, trying to get too many things in kind of at once, but all of them pretty sound. And I think the whole, we need to go after Osama bin Laden the way we did, seeking him out the way the Obama administration did, instead of starting the war in Iraq like Bush did. That's the kind of idea.
One second. We have an ocean separating us.
Oh, this is the World War II answer. Look, we've got Jews here. They can't kill all of them because the ones that stay here won't get killed. So, what business is it of ours if Hitler takes Poland?
The European nations together have spent $100 billion, or maybe more than that, less than us. Why doesn't he call them?
And they haven't, though.
So you got to put up your money like I did with NATO. I got them to put up hundreds of billions of dollars. The Secretary General of NATO said Trump did the most incredible job I've ever seen. They wouldn't have any. They were going out of business. We were spending almost 100% of the money was paid by us.
By the way, no, it wasn't. One of the things that Trump doesn't understand about the NATO expenditures, and somebody's got to get fucking ahead of this talking point too, because this is so annoying, is that when we engage in military exercises with NATO countries, they're already there. And we spend a lot more money getting our ships to the region, our airplanes to the region. So when we go through these exercises, and that's what he's talking about, not NATO overall, but when we actually go through the exercises with them, It's way more costly for us because there's an ocean between us. That's where he gets this talking point from. It's super fucking weird. And that's why it's more expensive for us to engage, because they're already there. That is made up for the fact that if there's a war between NATO and Russia or anybody else, and NATO joins together about this, their militaries, the part that they've engaged with NATO as far as exercises and all that kind of stuff, and the rest of their army will be engaged. Ours won't. Yeah. Yeah, I think tonight should be a good night to donate to Biden. Yeah. And just for lozenges.
He didn't do that. He's getting you got to ask these people to put up the money. We're over $100 billion more spent, and it has a bigger impact on them because of location, because we have an ocean in between. You got to ask them. As far as Israel and Hamas, Israel's the one that wants to go. He said the only one that wants to keep going is Hamas. Actually, Israel is the one, and you should let him go and let him finish the job. He doesn't want to do it. He's become like a Palestinian, but they don't like him because he's a very bad Palestinian. He's a weak one.
Again, what the fuck is that? All of Biden's kind of like slack-jawed, expressions make way more sense. What was that?
President Biden, you have a minute.
I've never heard so much foolishness. This is a guy who wants to get out of NATO. Are you going to stay in NATO? He's going to pull out of NATO.
Look, did you see his face when he said you're going to stay in NATO? Did you see that? Watch his face. When he says you're going to get out of NATO.
This is a guy who wants to get out of NATO. Are you going to stay in NATO? He's going to pull out of NATO.
Look at that. What the fuck? Why is that not a bigger story? Holy shit. Maybe. Meh.
The idea that we have, our strength lies in our alliances as well. It may be a big ocean, but we're ever able to avoid a war in Europe, a major war in Europe? What happens if, in fact, you have Putin continue to go into NATO? We have an Article 5 agreement. Attack on one is attack on all. You want to start the nuclear war he keeps talking about, go ahead. Let Putin go in and control Ukraine and then move on to Poland and other places. You see what happens then. He has no idea what the hell he's talking about. And by the way, I got 50 other nations.
Look at him fucking fish mouthing over here. I'm not dissing Biden. I'm actually fuck that. I'm saying the entire debate in retrospect, Biden does way better, and it's all the voice and a couple of stammers. All the answers are rock fucking solid. Listen to this shit. And watch Trump during this description.
Control Ukraine and then move on to Poland and other places. You see what happens then. He has no idea what the hell he's talking about. And by the way, I got 50 other nations around the world to support Ukraine, including Japan and South Korea, because they understand that this kind of dislocation has a serious threat to the whole world peace. No major war in Europe has ever been able to be contained just to Europe.
Yeah, that's a totally rock solid answer so far. Again, 100% the voice. Meanwhile, Trump's statement right before that was just absolute fucking gibberish.
President Trump, just to follow up, would you support the creation of an independent Palestinian state in order to achieve peace in the region?
I'd have to see, but before we do that,
I'd have to see. By the way, Biden is for it. He's already stated that.
the problem we have is that we spend all the money. So they kill us on trade. I made great trade deals with the European nations because if you add them up, they're about the same size economically. Their economy is about the same size as the United States. And they were no cars, they don't want anything that we have. But we're supposed to take their cars, their food, their everything.
Again, just horseshit. We have decent trade relations with the EU, and they have some breakaway stuff based on like fucking cheese and other stuff that they sell that's primary to their culture and stuff, like olive oil from Italy and shit like that. The EU gives them some latitude to push back on stuff because our country and our productivity would dwarf everything. Again, this goes to like Canadian fucking dairy. The reason why, they put tariffs on American milk and cheese is because Wisconsin's right over the fucking border and it produces as much as the entire country. But if they just bought it from Wisconsin and then something fucking happened and Wisconsin just decided we're not producing dairy anymore, we're shifting to something the fuck else, then the entire, they'd have to restart their farms from scratch. It's totally stupid. Of course they have some minor protective tariffs on stuff, but the balance is fairly fucking normal.
For agriculture. I changed that. But the big thing I changed is they don't want to pay. And the only reason that he can play games with NATO is because I got them to put up hundreds of billions of dollars. I said, and he's right about this, I said, no, I'm not going to support NATO if you don't pay. They asked me that question. Would you guard us against Russia at a very secret meeting of the 28?
Also, it was not a secret meeting at all. That's the odd part. Like it's a weird little detail he tries to throw in, which is just a dumb lie for no fucking reason.
States at that time, nations at that time. And they said, no, if you don't pay, I won't do that. And you know what happened? Billions and billions of dollars came flowing in the next day and the next months. But now we're in the same position. We're paying everybody's bills.
Let's turn to the issue.
No, we aren't. And it was you think he gives a shit? Like Hungary's a part of NATO. You think he gives a shit if Hungary's behind on stuff? No, he wants them to undercut it. He thought he was calling their bluff, and this would give him a reason to exit, that they wouldn't be able to do it. And they were like, well, we just can't do that right now. And you go, well, then I think I'm going to end it. That's what it was.
You have democracy. Former President Trump, I want to ask you about January 6, 2021. After you rallied your supporters that day, some of them stormed the Capitol to stop the constitutionally mandated counting of electoral votes. As president, you swore an oath to, quote, preserve, protect, and defend, unquote, the Constitution. What do you say to voters who believe that you violated that oath through your actions and inaction on January 6th and worry that you'll do it again?
Well, I don't think too many believe that. And let me tell you about January 6th. On January 6th, we had a great border. Nobody coming through, very few. On January 6th.
Right. It's like, what the fuck are you talking about? Again, Biden being completely normal in this. And what the fuck does that mean? We had it on January 6th. We were also like in the depths of fucking COVID.
We were energy independent. On January 6th, we had the lowest
we still are.
Taxes ever. We had the lowest regulations ever. On January 6th, we were respected.
Also, no, we didn't have the lowest regulations ever. You know when we used to have the lowest regulations? When children worked in coal mines.
All over the world. All over the world, we were respected. And then he comes in, and we're now laughed at. We're like a bunch of stupid people. What happened to the United States' reputation under this man's leadership is horrible, including weaponization, which I'm sure at some point you'll be talking about, where he goes after his political opponent because he can't beat him fair and square.
You have 80 seconds left. My question was, what do you say to those voters who believe that you violated your constitutional oath through your actions and inaction on January 6, 2020?
80 seconds. Jesus. There were a couple of times when Biden didn't use up his time, and if I recall, it was like 40 seconds left. Trump's just like, no.
Anyone, and worry that you'll do it again.
Well, I didn't say that to anybody. I said peacefully and patriotically. And Nancy Pelosi, if you just watched the news from 2 days ago, on tape to her daughter, who's a documentary filmmaker, they say.
A filmmaker? She's a what?
Days ago. On tape to her daughter, who's a documentary filmmaker, they say.
Filmmaker. Okay.
But she's saying, oh, no, it's my responsibility. I was responsible for this. Because I offered her 10,000 soldiers or National Guard, and she turned them down. And the mayor of, in writing, by the way, the mayor, in writing, turned it down, the mayor of D.C. They turned it down. I offered 10,000 because I could see, I had virtually nothing to do. They asked me to go make a speech. I could see.
Also, they asked me to go make a speech. Oh, and by the way, the 10,000, that's like troops. It's a lie, just a flat out lie. But they asked me. There's a lot of, if you'll notice, he's doing a lot of passing the buck. It's not surprising with him, but he's doing it about some very weird shit now. Like he has said repeatedly, like everybody wanted Roe v. Wade killed, right? He's been passing that along to everybody else. If they told me to do, I didn't. That everybody told me this is what I should do. It's not my fucking fault, right? That's his answer. This is odd, though. They asked me to make a speech. It was your rally. You fucking promoted it for like a month.
What was happening? Everybody was saying they're going to be there on January 6th. They're going to be there.
Yeah, everybody said they were going to. I didn't even want to do this. Somebody tweeted to me, "Be there and be wild," and I was like, okay.
And I said, you know what? There's a lot of people coming. You could feel it. You could feel it too, and you could feel it. And I said, they ought to have some National Guard or whatever. And I offered it to her, and she now admits that she turned it down, and it was...
No, she doesn't, by the way. And also, the stipulations on the National Guard he did want to put there that they had a choice from the surrounding area, from Virginia, was that they could not have any fucking... like they couldn't have any weapons, they couldn't carry shields or wear riot gear. Like, it's just fucking dumb.
The same day she was, I don't know, she can't be very happy with her daughter because it made her into a liar. She said, I take full responsibility for January 6th.
President Biden?
Look, he encouraged those folks to go up on Capitol Hill, number one. I sat in the dining room off the Oval Office. He sat there for 3 hours watching, begging, being begged by his vice president and a number of his colleagues on the Republican side as well to do something, to call for a stop, to end it. Instead, they talked about these people being patriots and great patrons of America. In fact, he says he'll now forgive them for what they've done. They've been convicted. He says he wants to commute their sentences and say that no. But he went to every single court in the nation. I don't know how many cases, scores of cases, including the Supreme Court, and they said, no, this guy is responsible for doing what was done. He didn't do a damn thing, and these people should be in jail, and they should be the ones who are being held accountable. And he wants to let them all out, and now he says if he loses again, such a whiner that he is, that it could be a bloodbath.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump?
Okay, so whatever, the 60-second response, he goes to 2 points and just decides to bail on the scores of cases about the election and goes back to the Jan 6ers, whatever. And then he's like, and he wants to get the whiner part in. That worked.
What they've done to some people that are so innocent, you ought to be ashamed of yourself. What you have done, how you've destroyed the lives of so many people when they ripped down Portland, when they ripped down many...
Hashtag rip Portland.
Other cities. You go to Minnesota, Minneapolis, what they've done there with the fires all over the city. If I didn't bring in the National Guard, that city would have been destroyed.
No, it wasn't. It was George Floyd's brother that shut it down.
You look at all of they took over big chunks of Seattle. I was all set to bring in the National
a chunk of Seattle
Guard. They heard that. They saw them coming and they left.
No, they didn't. The people of the Chop and the Chaz murdered 2 black kids and then covered up the crime scene, and the police there decided they'd had enough.
Immediately, what he said about this whole subject is so off. Peacefully patriotic. One other thing. The Unselect Committee, which is basically 2 horrible Republicans that are all gone now, out of office, and Democrats, all Democrats, they destroyed and deleted all of the information they found because they found out we were right.
By the way, this is such a weird thing, too. They erased the videotapes of some of the witnesses that were not used, or the testimony that wasn't used. Once they had the transcripts and the clips that they actually used, they released the rest of it because it's not evidence in a crime. That's not what they do. That's not what the Select Committee was supposed to do. It's not like you keep depositions forever or whatever. But all of the transcripts are still available. And I don't know what the fuck they think of. And again, they want to cut up these people's videos and use it against them. The people who testified on the day, the police officers, some of the people who were there, that kind of stuff. And because they assume in the videos that some of them were, while they were saying, "Oh my fucking God," his followers were chanting, "Hang Mike Pence" and stuff. They were winking at the time.
Right. We were right. And they deleted and destroyed all of the information. They should go to jail for that. If a Republican did that, they'd go to jail.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden, I want to give you a minute.
The only person on this stage is a convicted felon is the man I'm looking at right now. And the fact of the matter is, what he's telling you is simply not true. The fact is that there was no effort on his part to stop what was going on up in Capitol Hill. And all those people, every one of those who were convicted, deserves to be convicted. The idea that they didn't kill somebody, just went in and broke down doors, broke the windows, occupied offices, turned over desks, turned them over statues. The idea that those people are patriots? Come on. When I asked him the first two debates we had.
Okay, so the worst part of that answer was the stammering between the details and not knowing where he was going to go with it. But turning on its head and say the idea that those people are patriots is ridiculous. Come on, that's where he was going. Trump doesn't like it at all. Yeah, but it was, and by the way, still voting for Biden, still cool with it.
The debates we had first time around, I said, will you denounce the Proud Boys? He said, no, I'll tell them to stand by. The idea he's refusing, will you denounce these guys? Will you denounce the people we're talking about now? Will you denounce the people who attacked that cop?
I think he calls them poor boys at some point.
What are you going to do?
I'm going to give you a minute.
All right, yeah, threw it back at him again. By the way, I might have missed that part of it the first time around. That was working.
President Trump, for a follow-up question I have, after a jury convicted you of 34 felonies last month, you said if reelected, you would, quote, have every right to go after, unquote, your political opponents. You just talked about members of the Select Committee on January 6th going to jail. Your main political opponent is standing on stage with you tonight. Can you clarify exactly what it means about you feeling you have every right to go after your political opponents?
Well, I said my retribution is going to be success. We're going to make this country successful again, because right now it's a failing nation. My retribution is going to be success. But when he talks about a convicted felon, his son is a convicted felon at a very high level. His son is convicted.
At a very high level.
Going to be convicted probably numerous other times. Should have been convicted before, but his Justice Department let the statute of limitations lapse on the most important things. But he could be a convicted felon as soon as he gets out of office. Joe could be a convicted felon with all of the things that he's done. He's done horrible things. All of the death caused at the border, telling the Ukrainian people that we're going to want $1 billion or you change the prosecutor. Otherwise, you're not getting $1 billion. If I ever said that, that's quid pro quo. That we're not going to do anything. We're not going to give you $1 billion unless you change your prosecutor, having to do with the son. This man is a criminal. This man, you're lucky. You're lucky. I did nothing wrong.
Okay, yeah, this is kind of like standardized stump speech Trump in this regard. But yeah, I mean, we've covered this on the live stream so many times. But again, it's completely reasonable that Biden is looking at him like he's a fucking idiot.
We'd have a system that was rigged and disgusting. I did nothing wrong.
Thank you,
I did nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with paying off a porn star while your wife's at home nursing your 5-month-old.
President Trump. President Biden, you have said, I'm coming right to you, sir. Well, you want to respond? Go ahead. I'll give you a minute to respond.
The idea that I did anything wrong relative to what you're talking about is outrageous. It's simply a lie, number one. Number two, the idea that you have a right to seek retribution against any American just because you're president is wrong. It's simply wrong. No president's ever spoken like that before. No president in our history has spoken like that before. Number three, the crimes that you are still charged with, and think of all the civil penalties you have. How many billions of dollars do you owe in civil penalties for molesting a woman in public, for doing a whole range of things, of having sex with a porn star on the night while your wife was pregnant? I mean, what are you talking about? You have the morals of an alley cat.
Give you a minute, sir.
I didn't have sex with a porn star, number one. Number two, that was a case that was started and moved. They moved a high-ranking official, a DOJ, into the Manhattan DA's office to start that case. That case is going to be appealed and won. We had a very terrible judge, a horrible judge, Democrat.
See, this is him painting him into a corner and making him act like an asshole. Okay.
The prosecutor were all high-ranking Democrats, appointed people, and both the civil and the criminal. He basically went after his political opponent because he thought it was going to damage me. But when the public found out about these cases, because they understand it better than he does, he has no idea what these cases are. But when they found out about these cases, you know what they did? My poll numbers went up, way up. You know that because you're reporting it. And we took in more money in the last 2 weeks than we've ever taken in the history of any campaign. I don't think any campaign has ever taken. Hundreds of millions of dollars came pouring in because the public knows it's a scam and it's a guy that's after.
And by the way, he made half of what Biden made in the same month. He got one donor that gave him $100 million to the RNC and partly to his campaign, his super PAC. Without that $100 million single donor, he brought in half of what Biden brought in. And all of Biden's donations are like they average $43.
After his political opponent because he can't win fair and square.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden, you have said, quote, Donald Trump and his MAGA Republicans are determined to destroy American democracy. Do you believe that the tens of millions of Americans who are likely to vote for President Trump will be voting against American democracy?
The more they know about what he's done, yes. The more they know about what he's done. And there's a lot more coming. He's got a lot of cases down the road coming around. He's got a whole range of issues he has to face. I don't know what the juries will do, but I do know he has a real problem. And so the fact that, could you ever think you heard any president say that I'm going to seek retribution? Do you ever hear any presidents say that I thought Hitler had some good ideas? What got me involved to run in the first place after my son had died, I decided in Iraq, because of Iraq, I said I wasn't going to run again until I saw what happened in Charlottesville, Virginia. People coming out of the woods carrying swastikas on torches, and singing the same anti-Semitic bile they sang when back in Germany. And the young woman got killed. I spoke to the mother, and they asked him, they said, What do you think of those people? The ones who got killed, the one who tried to stop it, and the ones he said, I think they're fine people on both sides. What American president would ever say, Nazis coming out of fields, carrying torches, singing the same anti-Semitic bile, carrying swastikas, were fine people? And this is the guy who says Hitler's done some good things. I'd like to know what they are. The good things Hitler's done, that's what he said. This guy has no sense of American democracy.
President Trump.
Jake, both of you know that story has been totally wiped out because when you see the sentence, it said 100% exoneration on this. So he just keeps it going. He says he ran because of Charlottesville. He didn't run because.
Also, what is that? When you look at the sentence, it's been completely wiped out. Yeah. Listen to his response.
Wiped out.
Hold on.
President Trump.
Jake, both of you know that story has been totally wiped out because when you see the sentence, it said 100% exoneration on this. So he just keeps it going. He says he ran.
If you see the sentence, it said 100% exoneration on that. I mean, just fucking gibberish. Because he's speaking loudly, somehow that gets a pass.
And because of Charlottesville, he didn't run because of Charlottesville. He ran because it was his last chance. He's not equipped to be president. You know it, and I know it. It's ridiculous. We have a debate. We're trying to justify his presidency. His presidency, he's without question the worst president, the worst presidency in the history of our country. We shouldn't be having a debate about it. There's nothing to debate. He made up the Charlottesville story, and you'll see it's debunked all over the place. Every reasonable anchor has debunked it.
Every reasonable anchor has debunked it.
Just the other day it came out where it was fully debunked. It's a nonsense story. He knows that, and he didn't run because of Charlottesville. He used that as an excuse to run.
President Biden.
And debunked. It happened. All you have to do is listen to what was said at the time. And the idea that somehow that's the only reason I ran. I ran because I was worried a guy like this guy could get elected. If he thought they were good people coming out of that forest, carrying those woods, carrying those torches, then he didn't deserve to be president. Didn't deserve to be president at all. And the idea that he's talking about all this being fabricated, we saw with our own eyes. We saw what happened on January 6th. We saw the people breaking through the windows. We saw people occupying his own vice president. Look, there's a reason why 40 of his 44 top cabinet officers refused to endorse him this time. His vice president hasn't endorsed him this time. So why?
Okay, Trump does this like this pursed mouth thing whenever he feels caught. He does like, and he's done it before. He did it in the fucking 2015 or 2016 debates where he does that's where that GIF came from. This is how you know you're getting under his skin. Just saying.
Why? They know him well. They serve with him. Why are they not endorsing him?
Thank you, President Biden. We're going to be right back with more from the CNN presidential debate.
I think this goes straight
The governor is asking you to
debate between presidents.
Back again in a second term. President Biden, while black unemployment dropped to a record low under your presidency, black families still earn far less than white families. Black mothers are still 3 times more likely to die from pregnancy-related causes, and black Americans are imprisoned at 5 times the rate of white Americans. What do you say to black voters who are disappointed that you haven't made more progress?
They acknowledge they made a lot of progress, number one. The fact of the matter is there's more small black businesses that have been started than any time in history. Number two, the wages of black unemployment is the lowest level it's been in a long, long time. Number three, we're providing housing for black Americans and dealing with the segregation that exists among these corporate.
Okay, yeah, so this was the comeback flub that I didn't particularly like or whatever. He was trying to hit these 3 points again, kind of get them out of the way. And Biden, he says small black businesses, which I think would be black small businesses, whatever, it doesn't matter. But specifically, makes way more sense than Trump saying black jobs or something, which I believe is in his answer.
These corporations that collude to keep people out of their houses. And in addition to that, we find that the impact on the choice that black families have to make relative to child care is incredibly difficult. When we did the first major piece of legislation in the past, I was able to reduce black child care costs. I cut them in half. We got to make sure we provide for child care costs. We got to make sure, because when you provide those child care protections, you increase economic growth because more people can be in the job market. So there's more to be done, considerably more to be done. But we've done a great deal so far, and I'm not letting up, and they know it.
You have...
Okay, again, solid answer, kind of searching for the thing, but the weakest answer of the block in that regard. Like straight out, like he's trying to get to his 1, 2, 3 and wrap it up in 2 minutes. Again, this would be where, again, Bob Cesca was talking about like overcoached. This seems like that would be one of those things. But I like the beginning and the end of like there's still more to do, but they know we've done a great job so far. Whatever.
49 seconds left. What do you say to black voters who are disappointed with the progress so far?
I say I don't blame them for being disappointed. Inflation is still hurting them badly. For example, I provided for the idea that any black family, first-time home buyer, should get a $10,000 tax credit to be able to buy their first home so they can get started. I made sure that we're in a situation where all those black families and those black individuals who had to take out student loans that were ballooning, that if they were engaged in nursing, anything having to do with volunteerism, if they paid their bills for 10 years on their student debt, all the rest was forgiven after 10 years. Millions have benefited from that. And we're going to do a whole lot more for black families.
Thank you.
Okay, he added that little chunk in there. Totally cool. Right? And he's specific, too. Not just flagrantly forgiving student loans, but if they're doing nursing or something like that.
President Trump?
And he caused the inflation. He's blaming inflation, and he's right, it's been very bad. He caused the inflation, and it's killing black families and Hispanic families and just about everybody. It's killing people. They can't buy groceries anymore. They can't. You look at the cost of food where it's doubled and tripled and quadrupled. They can't live. They're not living anymore.
Yeah, they're all dead. They can't live, they're not living anymore.
He caused this inflation. I gave him
murdered by inflation. All the black people and the Hispanic people, they're all dead now. Way to go, Joe.
A country with no.
And again, this is another one of the moments where where Biden's like listening to this and kind of lock-faced, but he's like, what the fuck?
Oh, essentially no inflation. It was perfect. It was so good. All he had to do is leave it alone. He destroyed it with his Green New scam and all this money that's being thrown out the window. He caused inflation. As sure as you're sitting there, the fact is that his big kill on the black people is the millions of people that he's allowed to come in through the border. They're taking black jobs now.
They're taking black jobs now. Whew. And again, it in retrospect, Biden's shocked, like, what the hell look and how long it lasts makes way more sense.
And it could be 18, it could be 19, and even 20 million people. They're taking black jobs and they're taking Hispanic jobs, and you haven't seen it yet, but you're going to see something that's going to be the worst in our history.
Thank you. President Biden?
You haven't seen it yet, even though technically the worst is behind us as far as the immigration part, because again, it was about border crossings and recidivism under Title 42 that created the artificial number that he's quoting. But yeah, that it's the worst is behind us. Why? And probably saying because terrorism or something.
There was no inflation when I became president. You know why? The economy was flat on its back. 15% unemployment. He decimated the economy, absolutely decimated the economy. That's why there was no inflation at the time. There were no jobs. We provided thousands of millions of jobs for individuals who are in all communities, including minority communities. We made sure that they have health insurance. We have covered, the ACA has increased. I made sure that they're $8,000 per person in a family to get written off for the health care. But this guy wants to eliminate that. They tried 50 times. He wants to get rid of the ACA again. And they're going to try again if they win. You find ourselves in a position where the idea that we're not doing any, we put more police on the street than any administration has. He wants to cut the cops. We're providing for equity and making sure people have a shot to make it. There's a lot going on, but in inflation, he caused it by his tremendous malfeasance in the way he handled the pandemic.
Thank you.
Okay, again, took him a long time to get there, but the answer's true and stands. It's just finding words. And again, for a guy with a stutter, not as big a deal. And again, it's the combination of the stutter and the dry voice that's doing it. But yeah.
Another persistent challenge is the climate crisis. 2023 was the hottest year in recorded history, and communities across the country are confronting the devastating effects of extreme heat, intensifying wildfires, stronger hurricanes, and rising sea levels. Former President Trump, you've vowed to end your opponent's climate initiatives, but will you take any action as president to slow the climate crisis?
Well, let me just go back to what he said about the police, how close the police are to him. Almost every police group in the nation from every state is supporting Donald J. Trump. Almost every police group. And what he's done to the black population is horrible, including the fact that for 10 years he called them super predators. We can't, in the 1990s, we can't forget that. Super predators was his name, and he called it to them for 10, and they've taken great offense.
Oh, can I say for the record, too, that the super predators phrase, which is horseshit, that came up, I want to say that even Hillary Clinton floated it at one point. They were talking about people who commit crimes across state lines, and the crime bill would help catch those people. Trump and the rest around him assumed they only meant black people. That was when like Ron Paul called them fleet-footed and that shit. Right. Hillary brought up the super predators thing, and the idea, it wasn't that they were black. It was people who committed crimes across multiple state lines, and that they were, committing crimes in a bunch of different districts and would get away with it. But the crime bill the crime bill had very little to do with the rise in incarceration rates across anything. Just for the record, that was VICAP and the fingerprint system that did that.
And now they see it happening. But when they see what I did for criminal justice reform and for the historically black colleges and universities, where I funded them and got them all funded, and the opportunity zones with with Tim. As you know, Tim Scott was incredible. He did a great job, great senator from South Carolina. He came to me with the idea, and it was a great idea. It's one of the most successful economic development acts ever in the country, opportunity zones. And the biggest beneficiary are blacks. And that's why we have the best numbers with them in maybe ever. They're saying ever. I read this morning where ever, the best numbers. He's lost much of the black population because he's done a horrible job for black people. He's also done a horrible job for Hispanics. But wait till you see these millions of people pouring into our country, and they're going to take the jobs. And it's all—
They're going to. They're not right now. They still haven't, but they're gonna. Because they're hanging out. They're just waiting. They're all going to spring on those black jobs, any day now. Just keep watching.
Already started, and you haven't seen anything yet. It's a disaster.
Yeah. Why? Because it's going to happen during your presidency? Is that the idea?
30.
Yeah, this was a question, by the way, about climate.
8 seconds left. President Trump, will you take any action as president to slow the climate crisis?
So I want absolutely immaculate clean water, and I want absolutely clean air, and we had it. We had H2O. We had the best numbers ever.
Yeah, we had H2O. We had the best numbers ever. I'm sure no one in the mainstream media, in the big legacy media, will draw attention to the fact that and by the way, probably the truest statement he said the entire time. Yes, we did have indeed water.
And we were using all forms of energy, all forms, everything. And yet, during my 4 years, I had the best environmental numbers ever. And my top environmental—
Because the entire economy shut down. Of course, the air was better. People were talking about how much nicer the air was because airplanes weren't flying.
People gave me that statistic just before I walked on the stage, actually.
I don't know where the hell he's been. The idea that anything he said is true. I've passed the most extensive climate change legislation in history. We find ourselves, and by the way, black colleges. I came up with $15 billion for HBCUs, historic black universities and colleges, because they don't have those. They don't have the kind of contributors that they have to build these laboratories and the like. Any black student is capable in college of doing any white student can do. They just don't have the money. But now they'll be able to get those jobs in high tech. We're in a situation where the idea that he is claiming to have done something that had the cleanest water, he hadn't done a damn thing for the environment. He pulled out of the Paris Peace Accord, Climate Accord. I immediately joined it because if we reach 1.5 degrees Celsius at any one point, where there's no way back. The only existential threat to humanity is climate change, and he didn't do a damn thing about it. He wants to undo all that I've done.
Okay, and again, like a choppy roundabout way because he's covering two issues. Overall, again, if his voice wasn't dry, would have been a fine answer.
The Paris Accord was going to cost us $1 trillion, and China nothing, and Russia nothing, and India nothing. It was.
And by the way, the $1 trillion thing is something that you hear on right-wing media. This is something he got from Gorka or somebody. Is the idea is that it's going to set our businesses back because it's going to cost us $1 trillion to pay carbon taxes and retrofit things to be like more energy efficient.
It's a ripoff of the United States. And I ended it because I didn't want to waste that money because they treat us horribly. We were the only ones who was costing us money. Nobody else was paying into it. And it was.
Also, by the way, you don't pay into it. You're doing it on your own. You don't have to pay the fucking other countries. It is so odd. Like, this answer is so dumb. And again, it goes to, like, how do you respond in these situations other than what Biden is doing, which is like everything he's saying is just garbage. First of all, 1 this, 1 2 this, and 3 this. There's a bit of a Gish Gallop trap in any of this. But we don't pay into the Paris Climate Accord. We all commit to, investing in bettering things on our own. And we're the biggest, again, if you believe China's numbers, which are bullshit, and if you believe even Russia's numbers, which are bullshit, and technically the Saudi numbers, which are bullshit, the word on the street is that America is the biggest polluter in the world. We're not. We just admit it. It's almost like the honest version of when Trump was saying the reason we have more cases is because we test more. There's a reason we actually give a shit. Yeah, and by the way, I know there's some trolls here. Hi, welcome. Glad you guys could be here. Thank you for sharing me with the rest of your viewers. And I'm glad we're going through all this kind of stuff. And again, when I started this tonight, I genuinely thought this would be sort of more moribund and kind of, a post-mortem in a negative sense. But the more I watch it, the more comfortable I become with it. Again, I think he could have solved 80% of the problem this by just saying, I have a sore throat. At the very top, the rest of these answers would have sounded a lot more like coherent and normal if he'd just copped to that in the beginning.
It was.
Meanwhile, Trump, I still don't know what the fuck he's talking about. We had H2O, right?
It's a disaster. But everything that he said just now, I'll give you an example. I heard him say before insulin. I'm the one that got the insulin down for the seniors. I took care of the seniors. What he's doing is destroying.
He's been he's been pushing this particular. I want to say during COVID, they negotiated one company.
All of our medical programs.
During the collapse of COVID. Basically, temporarily, while this is happening, can we make this happen because everybody's broke and they're hating the pharmaceutical companies right now, so they'll think you're great for doing it.
Because the migrants coming in, they want
so that's not where Medicare can negotiate the price, though.
Everybody, and look, I have the biggest heart on the stage. I guarantee you that. And I want to take care of people. But we're destroying our country. They're taking over our schools, our hospitals, and they're going to be taking over Social Security. He is destroying Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid.
Okay, and again, that's when he goes, he's just like, I'll lay that out there. I have no idea what the fuck that means. That you could tell when he does it. He does this weird, sip at the end of his statement, oh boy, and hope he doesn't get caught. And, literally, Mike Lee, one of the closest Republicans to him in the Senate, was caught talking to donors we're going to get rid of Social Security. We got to kill Social Security, and Medicare and Medicaid are next. That's the plot. That's in Project 2025. That's what they're going to do. So to get elected, though, say whatever you want, because once we get in there, they'll love me for destroying it. Same thing with Roe v. Wade. Trump is basically under the premise that he will get into office the same way a Supreme Court justice gets on the court. Say Roe is settled law, and then when you get in there, screw it out of existence.
The idea is that we, in fact, we were the only ones of consequence who were not members of the Paris Accord. How can we do anything? We're not able to, the United States can't get its pollution under control. One of the largest polluters in the world, number one. We're making significant progress. By 2035, we will have cut pollution in half. We have made significant progress, and we're continuing to make progress. We set up a climate corps for thousands of young people who will learn how to deal with climate, just like the Peace Corps. And we're moving in directions that are going to significantly change the elements of cause of pollution. But the idea that he claims that he has the biggest heart up here and he's really concerned about pollution and about climate, I've not seen any indication of that. And by the way, with regard to prescription drugs, one company agreed that they would reduce the price to $35, which I was calling for, one, voluntarily. I made sure every company in the world, every pharmaceutical company, cannot have to pay.
Thank you.
And by the way,
all right, so he gets off and he's being polite. And look at Trump, just frump. He just pokes the lie that Trump just told. And this is the weird part. Biden is fumfering and his throat is dry at this point. By all measure, everybody watching at home at this point, when I was watching it, seemed to be under the impression that Trump is running away with this. And Biden's a bumbling mess and he's old and it's terrible, right? And that's going to be the narrative because you're going to see clips of this. You're not going to see the whole thing redone like this. You're welcome. And yet, nobody's telling Trump. And again, this is him. He's supposed to be a master media person and aware of this and so sharp and whatever. But you can tell he knows Biden, even with his dry voice and his kind of staggered answers, is deflating all of his bullshit. Look at him. It happens again and again. And when he does that, business, that means he knows he's full of shit.
Day, millions of Americans struggle just to make ends meet. For many older Americans, Social Security provides a critical lifeline. President Biden, if nothing is done to Social Security, seniors will see their benefits cut in just over 10 years. Will you name tonight one specific step that you're willing to take to keep Social Security solvent?
Yes, make the very wealthy begin to pay their fair share. Right now, everybody making under $170,000 pays 6% of their income, of their paycheck, every single time they get a paycheck from the time of the first one they get when they're 18 years old. The idea that they're going to, I've been proposing that everybody, the millionaires pay 1%. 1%. So no one I would not raise the cost of Social Security for anybody under $400,000. After that, I began to make the wealthy begin to pay their fair share by increasing from 1% beyond to be able to guarantee the program for life.
Yeah, so essentially, reasonable answer on Social Security. That's it. Remove the cap on Social Security payments and then create a striated scale for the rich, so they're not just paying 1%, they're paying probably maybe 3% on whatever, and keep it afloat. All right, that's, you don't have to like it, but that's the actual position of the Democrats forever.
So you still have 82 seconds left. Are there any other measures that you think that would be able to help keep Social Security solvent, or is that one enough?
I mean, that'll do it.
Well, no, that one enough will keep it solvent, but the biggest thing will do it if we defeat this man, because he wants to get rid of Social Security. He thinks there's plenty to cut in Social Security. He's wanting to cut Social Security and Medicare both times. And and if you look at the program put forward by the House Republican caucus that I believe supports, is in fact want to cut it as well. The idea that
that's Project 2025.
We don't need to protect our seniors is ridiculous. And by the way, the American public has greater health care coverage today than ever before. And on the ACA, as I said, you're in a circumstance where 400,000 people, 40 million people would not have insurance because they have a pre-existing condition. The only thing that allows them to have that insurance is the fact that they, in fact, are part of the ACA. And by the way, the other thing is, we're in a situation where I talk about education for black communities. I've raised the amount of money for Pell Grants by another $8,000. So anybody making under $70,000 a year is going to be able to get $15,000 toward their tuition. He just doesn't know what he's talking about.
Thank you, President Biden.
Okay, so he threw in that piece from the other, it was like a detail he left off of the conversation about historically black colleges and universities, tags that onto the end. But that's two ways. That's two distinct answers on how you do it. You remove the slide, add a sliding scale above $400,000 a year. There you go. And then here's Trump. This is Trump's answer on how you would keep Social Security solvent.
President Trump.
So I've dealt with politicians all my life. I've been on this side of the equation for the last 8 years. I've never
on the politics side.
seen anybody lie like this guy. He lies. I've never seen it. He could look you in the face. About so many other things too. And we mentioned the laptop. We mentioned Russia, Ukraine. Everything he does is a lie. It's misinformation and disinformation.
Okay, so this is him stewing over being called a liar, like 3 questions ago.
The losers and suckers story that he made up is
still grinding on that shit.
Total lie on the military. It's a disgrace. But Social Security, he's destroying it. Because millions of people are pouring into our country, and they're putting them onto Social Security. They're putting them onto Medicare, Medicaid. They're putting them in our hospitals. They're taking the place of our citizens. What they're doing to the VA, to our veterans, is unbelievable. Our veterans are living in the street, and these people are living in luxury hotels. He doesn't know what he's doing, and it's really coming back. I've never seen such anger in our country before.
President Biden?
The idea that veterans are not being taken care of, I told you before. And by the way, when I said suckers and losers, he acknowledged after that he fired that general. That general got fired because he's the one that acknowledged that that's what he said. He was the one standing with Trump when he said it, number one. Number two, the idea that we're going to be in a situation where all these millions and millions, the way he talks about it, illegal aliens are coming into the country and taking away our jobs. There's a reason why we have the fastest growing economy in the world. The reason why we have the most successful economy in the world. We're doing better than any other nation in the world. And by the way, those 15 Nobel laureates he talked about being phony, those 15 Nobel laureates, economists, they all said that if Trump is reelected, we're likely to have a recession, and inflation is going to increasingly go up. And by the way, worst president in history, 159 presidential scholars voted him the worst president in the history of the United States of America.
Look, there he is. It's odd. There's a side view of it, but there's the purse-lipped, I'm caught shit. And again, Biden is having such a rough night, and this asshole can't get a grip on it. Like, he's going to benefit from the layup of the voice and the stammering from some of the answers. But again, when you play this in chunks, I got to say, it's holding up better than I remember. And this isn't me spinning it. Like I said, I was kind of all prepared to go, well, this is rough. But I even missed some of Trump's weird shit the first time I watched it.
Biden, thank you so much. Let's turn to the cost of child care, which many American families struggle to afford. President Trump, both you and President Biden have tried to address this issue. But the average cost of child care in this country has risen to more than $11,000 a year per child. For many families, the cost of child care for 2 children.
Trump has no idea what his answer is going to be with this. You look at his mouth. This is his, what do I think about this?
Is more than their rent. In your second term, what would you do to make child care more affordable?
Just to go back,
yeah, I don't want to talk about child care.
The general got fired because he was no good. And if he said that, that's why he made it up. But we have 19 people that said I didn't say it, and they're very highly respected, much more so than him. The other thing is, he doesn't...
There's going to be a big follow-up on that story as well. And Biden's kind of like, what the fuck? Again, as an older man, it doesn't read the way it did when he was younger. I would call it Gene Simmons' mask face. Okay, so if you don't know, like when Kiss took off the makeup, it took Gene Simmons like 2 years to perform on stage like he wasn't wearing makeup, and his face was basically frozen and didn't fit what was going on. Go look at the Lick It Up video. It's really strange. Like, his face is basically holding still because the makeup used to do the work for him, and and after a while it didn't work. He eventually comes around and he's like showing his face, right? That's the point. But it was very clear.
Fire people.
Same kind of thing. Like, his face doesn't tell the story the way he thinks it does or when he was younger. It's a common thing. Trump, on the other hand, can't not. Right? He can't not make a face because he's a toddler.
He never fired people. I've never seen him fire anybody. I did fire a lot. I fired Comey because he was no good. I fired a lot of the top people at the FBI, drained the swamp. They were no good. Not easy.
Also, by the way, Comey wasn't put in by him. So he wants credit for firing Comey, but Comey was coming after him. He couldn't fire his own people, the people he put in, and it took him for fucking forever. Like with Jeff Sessions and others, like he dragged ass on that. You're fired. Couldn't get around to it.
Easier to fire people. You'd pay a price.
He also, by the way, had other people do it for him.
But they were no good. I inherited these people. I didn't put him there. I didn't put Comey there. He was no good. I fired him. This guy hasn't fired anybody. He never fires. He should have fired every military man that was involved with that the Afghanistan horror show, the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country.
Yeah, again, I know Trump hammers the shit out of this, but it is just a dead issue. We're out.
He didn't fire. Did you fire anybody? Did you fire anybody that's on the border that's allowed us to have the worst border in the history of the world? Did anybody get fired for allowing 18 million people, many from prisons, many from mental institutions? Did you fire anybody that allowed our country to be destroyed? Joe, our country is being destroyed as you and I sit up here and waste a lot of time on this debate. This shouldn't be a debate. He is the worst president.
Okay, that's also a talking point they work on. We shouldn't even have a debate. He's the worst president ever. It's not debatable. He made this point earlier, and he's coming back to it because he wants to make sure he checks it off. They want footage of this particular line. It's interesting. It was almost deflated by the fact that Biden had a vocal issue and seemed tired to everybody. Right?
They said about me because I said it. But look, he's the worst president in the history of our country. He's destroyed our country. Now all of a sudden he's trying to get a little tough on the border. He came out with a nothing deal, and it reduced it a little bit, like this much. It's insignificant.
He's down 40%, and the number's lower than when Trump was in office.
He wants open borders. He wants our country to either be destroyed or he wants to pick up those people as voters. And I don't think we just can't let it happen. If he wins this election, our country doesn't have a chance, not even a chance of.
Yeah, that's what he said the last time. And we have the highest stock market we've ever had and the longest string of low unemployment we've had in 60 years.
Coming out of this rut, we probably won't have a country left anymore. That's how bad it is. He is the worst in history by far.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden?
We're the most admired country in the world. We're the United States of America. There's nothing beyond our capacity. We have the finest military in the history of the world, the finest in the history of the world. No one thinks we're weak. No one wants to screw around with us. Nobody, number one. Number two, the idea that we're talking about worst presidents. I wasn't joking. Look it up. Go online. 159 or 58, don't hold me the exact number, presidential historians, they've had meetings and they voted who's the worst president in American history. One through best to worst. They said he was the worst in all of American history. That's a fact. That's not conjecture. He can argue the wrong.
Look at his face. Look at Trump's face right now. It's fucking weirdly childish, and he knows it. Now, one of the reasons why Trump has been using that that talking point in his rallies about the worst 5 if you put them together, or the worst 10 and all that shit, we've seen it a bunch of times at his diminishing rallies. The reason he started doing that talking point is because of that report that Biden's talking about specifically. Look at Trump right now. This is him demurring. He knows it's true.
Wrong, but that's what they voted. The idea that he is doing anything to deal with child care. He did virtually nothing to child care. We should significantly increase the child care tax credit. We should significantly increase the availability of women and men or single parents to be able to go back to work. And we should encourage businesses to have.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump, the question was.
And the tail end of that was actually really good. We should encourage businesses to have child care facilities.
About what would you do to make child care more affordable, if you want to take your minute.
Just so you understand, we have polling, we have other things that they rate him the worst because what he's done is so bad. And they rate me, I'll show you, I will show you, and they rate me one of the best, okay? And if I'm given another 4 years, I will be the best. I think I'll be the best. Nobody's ever created an economy like us. Nobody ever cut taxes like us. He's the only one I know. He wants to raise your taxes by 4 times. He wants to raise everybody's taxes by 4 times. He wants the Trump tax.
Yeah, he says that a lot. Like he thinks 4% is 4 times. Literally, understand what he's talking about right then. Literally is that the richest pay 21%. The number that they quoted earlier that he brought down the business tax from 38 to 21%. Biden was talking about bringing it to 24, 25%. That's 4%. He's saying 4 times as if each percentage change is a multiplication. He says this all the time and nobody pushes him on it, but that's exactly what he's saying. He thinks 4% is an order of 4, is a multiplication of 4.
Tax cuts to expire. So everybody, including the 2 of you, are going to pay 4 to 5 times. Nobody ever heard of this before. All my life.
By the way, nobody was paying 4 to 5 times the taxes before the tax cut. Whatever.
If I'd grow up and I'd see politicians talking about cutting taxes, when we cut taxes.
So before the Trump tax cut, people were paying 4 times as much tax. He cut taxes by 3/4.
As I said, we did more business. Apple and all these companies, they were bringing money back into our country.
They gave him a tax furlough.
Worst president in history.
Which is which Obama Biden had actually floated. That's from the Obama Biden administration. That was like 2015.
History by far. And
it just took place during his presidency.
Everybody knows it.
President Biden?
Look, the fact of the matter is that he's dead wrong about, he's increased the tariff, he will increase the taxes on middle-class people. I said I'd never raise a tax on anybody making less than $400,000. I didn't. But this tariff is 10% tariffs. Everything coming into the country, you know what the economists say? That's going to cost the average American $2,500 a year more, because they're going to have to pay the difference in food and all the things that were imported. Number two, he's in a situation where he talks about how he has not raised, he's somehow helped the middle class. The middle class have been devastated by you. Now you want a new tax cut of $5 trillion over the next 10 years, which is going to fundamentally bankrupt the country. You had the largest deficit of any president in American history, number one. Number two, you have not, in fact, made any contact, any progress with China. We are at the lowest trade deficit with China since 2010.
Thank you, President Biden.
You lost.
Thank you, President Biden. Let's discuss an.
I was and bringing up the trade deficit with China, like we're at the lowest trade deficit with them that we've ever had since 2010. You were the highest, including his trade deal, and then his, the tariff back and forth was what they were, because it was starting to ratchet up, which is why he had this panic attack and tried to do this.
Epidemic impacting millions of Americans that both of you have made a top priority in your first term, the opioid crisis, and for both of you. The number of overdose deaths in this country has gone up under your term.
By the way, we have like double the people in here that I will have. So it might be just late night folks or people overseas. But hi, welcome. This is Hal Sparks, Megaworldwide. Normally I do my show in the afternoons, and I have Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I have a morning show. Tomorrow's Friday. I will talk about that. And then, of course, Saturday, the radio show. Please feel free to join the rest of the time and subscribe wherever you are, especially if you hate what I'm doing. Also, if you're trolling, thank you for being here. I don't get an opportunity to thank trolls on this kind of scale, because without you, I would never make it out into the outer reaches of the algorithm. I would only be in the sort of the what would you call the confirmation bias cul-de-sac of people who, already are predisposed to like what I see. But because of you, because of trolls, I show up in your this person who watched this also watched this. So you help me reach other people, even if you don't want to. Also, if you're going to write something, totally cool. Just use your big boy and your big girl words. Don't be directly racist. I guess you can. I can't stop you from dog whistling, but I can certainly just keep the language to stuff you would say in front of your least racist grandparent.
It went up under your term. It has gone up. Former President Trump, despite the efforts that both of you have made, more than 100,000 Americans are dying from overdoses every year, primarily from fentanyl and other opioids. What will you do to help Americans right now in the throes of addiction who are struggling to get the treatment they need?
To finish up, we now have the largest deficit in the history of our country under this guy. We have the largest deficit with
No, we don't.
China. He gets.
No, we don't. And by the way, we do not have the largest trade deficit under China. Not at all. Again, what Biden said was right. We have the lowest trade deficit with China that we've had since 2010, which is, by the way, the very beginning of the China's gonna eat our lunch conversation. That's what triggered it.
It's paid by China. He's a Manchurian candidate. He gets money from China. So I think he's afraid to deal with them or something.
Also, what are you talking about? Like the Chips and Science Act, the amount of efforts he's taken, the tariffs have just increased what Trump had. Everything that Trump put on China, Biden has either doubled or tripled it.
But do you notice he never took out my tariffs because...
Yeah, because that's what you do for the people who are blackmailing you. You take the highest tariffs ever, according to him, and you keep them, and then you add more. Because apparently... I don't know what the result China was looking for in bribing Biden, but it was apparently they wanted his dick in their eye socket.
We bring in so much money with the tariffs that I imposed on China. He never took them away. He can't because it's too much money. It's tremendous. And we saved.
Also, can I just say Trump shit himself. Biden's mic is not on right now, and I would like you to hear the sound, ladies and gentlemen, of Trump filling his pants with soup. Listen carefully.
And, he never took them away. He can't because it's too much money. It's tremendous.
There it was. Trump shit his pants on stage breaking news. Did you guys hear that? No other microphones are on. Biden's mic's not on. The commentators' mics are not on. Yeah.
On China, he never took them away. He can't because it's too much money. It's tremendous.
It's tremendous. It's a tremendous pile of soup in his pants. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I think the lead that got buried in this is the fact that Trump shit himself a wet, squirty shit when his was the only microphone on. Ladies and gentlemen, one more time.
On China, he never took them away. He can't because it's too much money. It's tremendous. And we saved our steel industries.
That's nasty. That I definitely did not hear the first time. That is totally disgusting. That sound, because that wasn't even like a throat gurgle. One more time. And again, I'd like to remind you, maggots that are out there, Biden's mic is off. These are the rules. The only mic that is on in this entire fucking place is the one that's pointed right at Trump. And this is the noise his body made right after that answer.
Took him away. He can't because it's too much money. It's tremendous.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah. Just ass soup. Right? You heard it? Please tell me everybody heard that. That's so nasty. One more time for people in the cheap seats who think I made it up. And I'm going to play it and keep my hands off. Nobody thinks this is I got a special effect or anything.
Imposed on China. He never took them away. He can't because it's too much money. It's tremendous. And we saved our steel industries and the...
Hey! So, for the record, Trump did the rest of the debate. Hey, credit where credit is due. Trump did the rest of the debate with a diaper full of liquid shit. That was at 1:16:45 for the Who's at Home. Von Schitzenpants strikes again. Whoa, God. I think that settles it. I think if we're gonna pick a winner, no matter what you think, at 1:16:45, we'll settle that out right now. It's probably 2 seconds beforehand. What was it? Yeah, 1:16:40. I think is the top of the clip.
Well, he can't because it's too much money. It's tremendous.
Hey, oh God, that is the. Yeah, okay. I don't care how bad Biden's voice was. I don't care if he stammered and his stutter came back a couple times because trying to speak too early, or people thought it took him too long to get to multiple answers in it. Doesn't matter. The guy who wins the debate is the man who did not fill his pants with soup. That's all right. That's fucking hideous. And for the record, the only mic that is on, 2 Corinthians 1:16:40, is Trump's. That's it. That's for one last time, and we move on.
Imposed on China. He never took them away. He can't because it's too much money. It's tremendous. And we saved.
Did you soil yourself? Maybe. It did sound a little wet at the end. Let's wafting. That means he's smelling it for the next two. He's smelling it for the next 2 questions. Oh my God. Now, by the way, if Biden has a what the fuck look on his face, it's probably the smell. That was...
our steel industries and the...
Yeah, he cringes right before it happens.
There's more to come, but he hasn't done that. But he hasn't cut the tariffs because he can't, because it's too much money. But he's got the largest deficit in the history of our country, and he's got the worst situation with China. China's going to...
Oh, by the way, this is, you know why he's saying this? Because he includes the money he spent on COVID on Biden's tab because of how the fiscal year goes April to April. Same thing with fentanyl deaths, by the way. He does the same shit because the counting year goes from April to April, and because it went into Biden's year, because it finishes, and you're like, everything that happened in this year is all your fault. Meanwhile, none of Biden's policies are fully implemented, especially in a bunch of these areas. By maybe June is when you start really seeing some change. Even if they're implemented right away, it takes a while for them to extrapolate out. Right, just like the economic stuff, or even the vaccine.
Own us if you keep allowing them to do what they're doing to us as a country. They are killing us as a country.
Hey, proof that, by the way, that ass noise did not come from Joe Biden, because he just coughed on camera and you didn't hear anything, did you?
Joe, and you can't let that happen. You're destroying our country.
So, President Trump, you have 67 seconds left. The question was, what are you going to do to help America?
The question is, what was that sound and what is that smell?
In the throes of addiction right now who are struggling to get the treatment they need.
Jake, we were doing very well at addiction until the COVID came along. We had the 2.5, almost 3 years.
People got addicted to COVID.
Like nobody's ever had before, any country, in every way. And then we had to get tough. And it was the drugs pouring across the border.
What? Okay. How were they pouring across the border when you had the lowest numbers in the history, but COVID caused the spike? Where were they getting the drugs from? If the border was sealed up tight, it was the best border we've ever had. Where were they getting the drugs to have the overdoses during COVID?
It started to increase. We got great equipment. We bought the certain dog that's the most incredible thing that you've ever seen, the way they can spot it. We did.
Yes, the way we bought the certain dog that's the most incredible thing you've ever seen, the way they can spot it. Yeah, they can see fentanyl from far away. They're like bird dogs. Every time they see a fentanyl pill, it looks like geese.
Did a lot, and we were getting very low numbers, very, very low numbers.
No, they weren't. It was going up every year.
Then he came along. The numbers, have you seen the numbers now? It's not only the 18 million people that I believe is even low, because the gotaways, they don't even talk about gotaways. But the numbers of the amount of drugs and human trafficking in women coming across our border, the worst thing I've ever seen, at numbers that nobody's ever seen under him, because the border's so bad.
Well, you know why the border's so bad? It's because of the wall. I got a bunch of new viewers here. Maybe you guys don't know this, but to build a wall of that size, you have to flatten the ground out, and you create an access road on either side of it for the construction. That's what the soldiers guarding things were for, was to guard during construction, not to guard the border, because we had our people working with, by the way, Mexican firms hired to help build the wall, paid with American money. And also part of the wall was built on, giving on some private land, giving some of that land to Mexico. So Donald Trump's the first president to give American land to Mexico since the Alamo, I think. But when you build that wall, it had an access road on either side of it. Previously difficult terrain where people couldn't cross is now a flat road you can roll a fucking rolling suitcase down, and the wall ends at Indian land or private land in a couple of different places, which means all you got to do is roll your fucking suitcase to the end of the wall and walk around it. Before, you had to climb practically a cliff. But thanks to this asshole's construction, they created they eliminated a bunch of the natural barriers to put up a fake one that has to end because it reaches land we don't own as a country, that's private or native. So that's why. That's why people think they can now get into the country, is because they used to have to climb a hill to do it, and now entire families, even carrying a baby, can just walk to the end of the wall.
But the number of drugs coming across our border now is the largest we've ever had.
Getting caught. Number of drugs getting caught. They have a problem with apprehension.
By far.
President Trump, thank you. President Biden?
Fentanyl and the byproducts of fentanyl went down for a while. And I wanted to make sure we use the machinery that can detect fentanyl, these big machines that roll over everything that comes across the border. And it costs a lot of money. That was part of this deal we put together, this bipartisan deal. More fentanyl machines, more be able to detect drugs, more numbers of agents, more numbers of all the people at the border. And when we had that deal done, he called his Republican colleagues, said, "Don't do it. It's going to hurt me politically." No, he never argued it's not a good bill. It's a really good bill. We need those machines.
Look at him nodding. Look at that little one. Look at this shit. Hold on 1 second. Sorry, I gotta click back in here.
We need those.
Hold on. Look. What in the world? I brought a ghost back with me from the hotel in Denver. Watch who says it's a really good bill.
It's not a good bill. It's a really good bill. We need those.
He nods. He fucking nods. I don't want to turn into the body language dude, but look at this. What the shit? Trump team. I'm sorry. Fix your dude. His facial expressions are a problem. Biden team. Make a clip of that. Here's Trump nodding when Biden says it's a good bill. He nods. That's actually happened.
He called his Republican colleagues, said, "Don't do it. It's going to hurt me politically." No, he never argued it's not a good bill. It's a really good bill. We need those machines. We need those machines. And we're coming down very hard in every country in Asia in terms of precursors for fentanyl. And Mexico is working with us to make sure they don't have the technology to be able to put it together. That's what we have to do.
Yeah, that's a sound fucking plan. By the way, zero problems with that Biden answer, by the way. Again, only hurt by the lightness of his voice and the stammers that happened earlier in the evening.
Need those machines.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump, and again, the question is about Americans in the throes of addiction right now struggling to get the treatment they need.
Well, this does pertain to it.
It does pertain it to it.
Ended remain in Mexico. He ended catch and release. I made it catch and release in Mexico, not catch and release here. We had so...
He ended catch and release. You don't want catch and release is bad, according to you.
Many things that we had done, hard negotiations with Mexico, and I got it all for nothing.
No, you didn't. You're building the wall, and they hired guards because they didn't want fucking cartel guys shooting at Americans while they're building the fucking wall in the middle of the night, or killing Mexicans who were hired to do it because of territorial disputes, because there were fucking construction guys who were in gangs who would be working on the other side of them, flattening the ground out so you could fucking build the stupid goddamn wall. That's why they were there.
Just like when you have a hostage, we always pay $6 billion for a hostage.
We do. That's true. That's the going rate for an American hostage. $6 billion per hostage.
Every time we say a hostage. Now we have a hostage, a Wall Street Journal reporter. I think a good...
He's not a hostage. I mean, look, there's a very distinct... This asshole uses a slip shot with the word hostage anyway. Hostage is somebody who is... Literally, there's like bandits or a country or the regime of a country takes somebody, just snatches them the fuck up. No real charges, just holds them, and they're going to exchange it. They have literally charged him with things. He's a political prisoner. He's not a hostage. It's different, and how you handle it is different. This is just dumb.
Guy.
He's a guy.
And he's over there because Putin is laughing at this guy, probably asking for billions of dollars.
What? This is another one where like Biden's writing shit down, and there's a moment where you can just see him going.
For the reporter, I will have him out very quickly as soon as I take office.
But by the way, he said this a little bit ago, and even the Kremlin said bullshit.
Before I take office, I said by literally as soon as I win the election, I will have that reporter out. He should have had him out a long time.
Well, that sounds like the deal that Reagan made with the fucking Iranians to try and leverage the election. You guys can keep our hostages until then, and I'll give you what you want after the election. It sounds like he's making a deal with Putin right here on the air.
Ago, but Putin's probably asking for billions and billions of dollars because this guy...
Why?
...pays it every time. We had...
What? Again, so Putin's asking for billions of billions. Dude, if he wanted billions and billions of dollars, he'd just call the marker on your loans.
2 cases where he paid $6 billion for 5 people. I got 50...
We didn't, though. We got the 5 people... The money's still in the South Korean bank.
8 people out, and I paid essentially nothing.
Thank you, President Trump. Dana?
Let's turn to concerns that voters have about each of you. President Biden, you would be 86 at the end of your 2nd term. How do you address concerns about your capability to handle the toughest job in the world well into your 80s?
Well, first of all, I spent half my career being criticized being the youngest person in politics. I was the second youngest person ever elected to the United States Senate, and now I'm the oldest. This guy's 3 years younger and a lot less competent.
That's a solid answer. Like even Michael Ian Black shit on that answer. Like Biden's answer to "Are you too old?" I was young once. Like that's not the point. He's setting up this one. Look at Trump's fucking face. It's working.
I think that
this is why Trump didn't walk away with it.
Look at the record. Look at what I've done. Look how I've turned around the horrible situation he left me. As I said, 15 million new jobs, 800,000 manufacturing jobs, more investment in America, over billions of dollars in private investment in enterprises that we are growing. By the way, we brought an awful lot of people. Well, the whole idea of computer chips. We used to have 40% of the market. We invented those chips, and we lost it because he was sending people to find the cheapest jobs overseas and to bring home a product. So I went to South Korea. I convinced Samsung to invest billions of dollars here in the United States. And guess what? Those fabs, they call to build these chips, those fabs pay over $100,000. You don't need a college degree for them. And there's billions, about $40 billion already being invested and being built right now in the United States, creating significant jobs for Americans from all over the world.
President Biden, you have 40 seconds left. Would you like to add anything?
Yeah, I would. The idea that somehow we are this failing country. I never heard a president talk like this before. We're the envy of the world. Name me a single major country president who wouldn't trade places with the United States of America for all our problems and all our opportunities. We're the most progressive country in the world in getting things done. We're the strongest country in the world. We're a country in the world who keeps our word, and everybody trusts us. All of our allies and those who he coddles up to, from Kim Jong-un, who he sends love letters to, and Putin, etc. They don't want to screw around with us.
Thank you. Former President.
Yeah, okay. Solid. I mean, he used the experience idea. Look how I fixed this. That's what right. And then when they added on to something, instead of going, becoming defensive, he just said, stop shit talking America, which worked. Look at Trump, though. Yes, and Biden's mic is the same volume as Trump's, but because he's raspy, it sounds quieter. That also had a huge impact.
President Trump to follow.
Yeah, again, a compressor would have solved some of these problems as well. But again, all Biden had to do, the biggest loss of the night is I have a sore throat. Pardon my voice.
You would be 82 at the end of your second term. What do you say to voters who have concerns about your capabilities to serve?
Well, I took 2 tests, cognitive tests. I aced them, both of them.
Aced.
As you know, we made it public. He took none. I'd like to see him take one, just one, a real easy one. Like go through the first 5 questions. He couldn't do it. But I took 2 cognitive tests. I took physical exams every year. And,
everybody does.
We knock on wood wherever we may have wood, that I'm in very good health. I just won 2 club championships, not even senior, 2 regular club championships. To do that, you have to be quite smart, and you have.
What? Wait, all right. I missed the beginning of this shit too. What? How is golf a cognitive sport? The same way. I guess billiards would be in an even a Mensa level test. The shit?
You have to be able to hit the ball a long way.
I did not see that part. I must have been getting something to drink at this point. Hold on. This is the answer to what if people think you're too old?
Couldn't do it. But I took 2 cognitive tests. I took physical exams every year. And, we knock on wood wherever we may have wood, that I'm in very good health. I just won 2 club championships, not even senior, 2 regular club championships. To do that, you have to be.
Yeah, and Biden's like laughing this shit off. Now, this becomes the conversation about golf. And again, it's another dig. I gotta say, I think expectations for everybody else, because, everybody else set the expectations so low for Biden that our side of the aisle was more sensitive about Biden's performance than we actually needed to be. And Trump, is just fucking wandering. What the fuck?
Quite smart, and you have to be able to hit the ball a long way, and I do it. He doesn't do it. He can't hit a ball 50 yards. He challenged me to a golf match. He can't hit a ball 50 yards. I think I'm in very good shape. I feel that I'm as in good a shape as I was 25, 30 years ago. Actually, I'm probably a little bit lighter, but I'm in as good a shape as I was years ago. I feel very good. I feel the same. But I was willing to take a cognitive test. And you know what? If I didn't do well, I aced him. Dr. Ronnie Jackson, who's a great guy, when he was...
Don't you mean Ronnie Johnson?
White House doctor.
By the way, that's it. That's him cleaning up the Ronnie Johnson thing. He wanted to get Ronnie Jackson's name in.
And then I took another one, a similar one.
And the second test was just, what's the name of the guy who gave you the test? Bum, 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 bum.
And one of them said they've never seen anybody ace him.
Thank you. President Biden?
You can see he is 6'5" and only 223 pounds, or 235 pounds. Well, you said 6'4", 200. Well, anyway, that's it.
I never said that. Look at it. It's working. Look at him. Look how pissed he is. And again, if you look at fucking Fox and everybody, it's just be like, oh my God, Trump trampled him and Biden was terrible and and he's just miserable while he's supposedly winning.
Anyway, just
look at him. Look at him.
Take a look at what he says he is and take a look at what he is. Look, I'd be happy to have a driving contest with him.
Happy to have a driving contest.
I got my handicap.
By the way, when he first said that, I thought he meant driving a car because Trump doesn't have a license.
Which, when I was vice president, down to a 6. But by the way, I told you before, I'm happy to play golf if you carry your own bag.
Which is a rock solid line.
Think you can do it?
That's the biggest lie that he's a 6 handicap of all.
That's the biggest lie of all. 6 handicap. Like, he's jealous. It's so funny. And this is, again, people are like, they're arguing about fucking golf. This is Biden digging at him on something that matters. Because I got to tell you, like, Biden's shrugging it off at this point. Look how fucking, again, Trump is supposedly winning now. Biden had major flubs. Trump had a couple of lines about, like, I don't even know what he just said when Biden flubbed earlier, which should have just made him feel like, oh, fuck, I'm coasting the rest of it. But look at this asshole.
8 handicap.
Yeah.
8.
Never.
But I have, you know how many...
I've seen you swing. I know you swing.
Okay, let's
not act like children.
President Trump, we're going to turn...
Let's not act like children.
To a specific concern.
And that was great. Again, this is the dig that goes back. Let's not act like children. You are a child. Like, that was as good as that's better than he beat Medicare. Right? He beat Medicare nonsense. We beat Medicare. He beat it to death or whatever. Like, makes no sense. It's basically a non sequitur. But that, like, let's not be children. Like, you are a child. Nailed it.
That voters have about you. Will you pledge tonight that once all legal challenges have been exhausted, that you will accept the results of this election, regardless of who wins, and you will say right now that political violence in any form is unacceptable?
Well, I shouldn't have to say that, but of course I believe that. It's totally unacceptable. And if you would see my statements that I made on Twitter at the time, and also my statement that I made in the Rose Garden, you would say it's one of the strongest statements you've ever seen. In addition to the speech I made in front of, I believe, the largest crowd I've ever spoken to, and I will tell you, nobody ever talks about that. They talk about a relatively small number of people that went to the Capitol, and in many cases were ushered in by the police. And as Nancy Pelosi said, it was her responsibility, not mine. She said that loud and clear. But the answer is, if the election is fair, free, and I want that more than anybody. And I'll tell you something. I wish he was a great president, because I wouldn't be here right now. I'd be at one of my many places enjoying myself. I wouldn't be under indictment because I wouldn't have been his political opponent, because he indicted me because I was his opponent. I wish he was a great president. I would rather have that.
Yeah, this is the part where Trump doesn't want the job.
Wouldn't be here. I don't mind being here. But the only reason I'm here is he's so bad as a president.
And this is also him that Biden's line about I only decided to run because he's such a terrible person, that hit Trump, and he's just reversing the attack. He's trying to nullify it by saying the exact same thing. I'm only running, I'd be on a beach somewhere, but I'm only running because you're so terrible. He's running, and he started his campaign early because they gave him a notice of indictment, and he thinks this is his only way out.
That I'm going to make America great again. We're going to make America great again. We're a failing nation right now. We're a seriously failing nation. And we're a failing nation because of him. His policies are so bad. His military policies are insane. They're insane. These are wars that will never end with him. He will drive us into World War III, and we're closer to World War III than anybody can imagine. We are very, very close to World War III.
Yeah, we're on the brink of the precipice or in the middle of it, right? Isn't that the thing? Aren't we in the middle of the precipice of the edge of already in it if you think about it? I mean, how many times have we heard him say this?
And he's driving us there. And Kim Jong-un and President Xi of China, Kim Jong-un of North Korea, all of these, Putin, they don't respect him. They don't fear him. They have nothing going with this gentleman, and he's going to drive us into World War III.
You want a World War III, let him follow and win, and let Putin say, do what you want, NATO. Just do what you want. There's a thing called Article 5. An attack on one is an attack on all, and required response. The idea, I can't think of a single major leader in the world who wouldn't trade places with the job I've done and what they've done. Because we are a powerful nation. We have wonderful people. It's because of the people, not me. It's because of the American people. They're capable of anything, and they step up when they're needed. And right now, we're needed. We're needed to protect the world because our own safety is at stake. And again, you want to have a war, just let Putin go ahead and take Kyiv, make sure they move on, see what happens in Poland, Hungary, and other places along that border. Then you have a war.
President Trump, as I come back to you for a follow-up, the question was, will you...
Right. That's the other thing. It's like Trump never went anywhere near the question.
...accept the results of this election, regardless of who wins?
He went from, will you accept the result of the election, to World War III.
Just to finish what he said, if I might, Russia, they took a lot of land from Bush. They took a lot of land from Obama and Biden. They took no land, nothing from Trump, nothing. He knew not to do it. You're not going to play games with me. He knew that. I got along with him very well, but he knew not to play.
By the way, they constantly pushed the land they took in Georgia the entire time he was president, for the record. And they were building up and creating their war chest for the attack on Ukraine all the time he was president.
Games. He took nothing from me. But now he's going to take the whole thing from this man right here. That's a war that should have never started. It would have never started ever with me. And he's going to take Ukraine. And, you know, you asked me a question before, would you do this? He's got us in such a bad position right now with Ukraine and Russia, because Ukraine's not winning that war. He said, I will never settle until such time. They're running out of people. They're running out of...
I will never settle until such time... okay. Again, this explains Biden's fucking look. But the idea that Ukraine is losing right now, the only reason they even had a setback was because Republicans in Congress under his direction, limited funding for as long as they possibly could to try and get Ukraine on the back foot on behalf of Russia.
Soldiers, they've lost so many people. It's so sad. They've lost so many people, and they've lost those gorgeous cities with the golden domes that are 1,000 years old.
Okay, what the fuck is he talking about? What 1,000-year-old domes? Jesus Christ, he talks about Ukraine like it had the pyramids.
Oh, because of him and stupid decisions, Russia would have never attacked if I were president.
Trump, the question was, will you accept the results of the election, regardless of who wins? Yes or no, please.
If it's a fair and legal and good election, absolutely. I would have much rather accepted these. But the fraud and everything else was ridiculous. And if you want, we'll have a news conference on it in a week.
Okay, yeah. That's another one, like, 2 weeks away, my healthcare plan. Now he's going to have this is like a throwback moment from him. Remember he was supposed to have a press conference about all the evidence Remember that shit? That was like, what was that, fucking 2 years ago?
We'll have another one of these in a week. But I will absolutely, there's nothing I'd rather do. It would be much easier for me to do that than I'm running again. I wasn't really going to run until I saw the horrible job he did. He's destroying our country. I would be very happy to be someplace else, in a nice location someplace. And,
you know, some prisons have golf courses, I'm just saying.
And again, no indictments, no political opponent stuff, because it's the only way he thinks he can win. But unfortunately, it's driven up my numbers and driven them up to a very high level because the
unfortunately
people understand it.
Well, let's see what your numbers are when this election is over. Let's see. You're a whiner. When you lost the first time, you continued, you appealed and appealed.
Look at that. Just can't, like, he tries to react and brush it off and just can't. Look at the face collapse.
The courts all across the country. Not one single court in America said any of your claims had any merit, state or local, none. But you continue to provoke this lie about somehow there's all this misrepresentation, all this stealing. There is no evidence of that at all. And I tell you what, I doubt whether you'll accept it because you're such a whiner. The idea if you lose again, you accepting anything, you can't stand the loss. Something snapped in you when you lost the last time.
Now I gotta say, this is the dig. And if they keep this up, like, again, I'm fairly certain I am the only person going back through this bit by bit and rewatching it with you guys like this. I'm sure they're playing little bits and maybe they're, looking at moments. But in context, I gotta say, this is pretty. I'm feeling better about it as we go on, and again, you would think that Trump would be aware, according to how everybody else was watching this, how we were reacting, how Twitter was reacting to it, how everybody else was, that clearly Biden screwed and Trump killed it, and that was that. But apparently, the last person to get that piece of news was Trump, because, and it's partly because he's so fucking delicate. That in the next couple days, you'll see Biden taking responsibility. I had a cold. I should have told people I had a sore throat. Blah blah blah. They'll do some stuff because it's political. That's fine. Every dig that Biden is taking at him during this, Trump will grind on this shit for weeks because he still is. Apparently, according to Trump, in this moment, anyways, he has no idea he's doing better. Afterwards, he'll say, "Everybody said I won," but he doesn't feel it.
We'll be right back with more from the CNN presidential debate, live from Georgia.
Now time for the candidates to deliver their closing statements as predetermined by a coin.
Look at that. Hey, and look at that. We got there all in the end. You wrote it out with me. Hit the like if you could. Or if you don't like what I said tonight, please hit the thumbs down. The algorithm doesn't care. That's the good thing about it.
Toss. We're going to begin with you, President Biden. You have 2 minutes.
We've made significant progress from the debacle that was left by President Trump in his last term. We find ourselves in a situation where, number one, we have to make sure that we have a fair tax system. I ask anyone out there in the audience or anyone out watching this debate, do you think the tax system is fair? The fact is that I said nobody even making under $400,000 had a single penny increase in their taxes and will not. And if I'm reelected, that'll be the case again. But this guy has increased your taxes because of the deficit, number one. He's increased inflation because of the debacle he left after the way he handled the pandemic. And he finds himself in a position where he now wants to tax you more by putting a 10% tariff on everything that comes into the United States of America. What I did when, for example, he wants to get rid of the ability of Medicare us to be able to negotiate drug prices with a big pharma.
Okay, so there's a stutter moment. That was probably one of the ones that hit him the most. Again, this is clearly the stutter coming back. This is not, again, it's not about his ability to talk about the issues or understand the issues. That's his stutter happening. We've seen it before. As you get older, even though he fought it off for a long time, it might be a thing, but it's not. No, it's not a brain fart. He's communicating it. That's a communication problem. And again, I don't have a problem, any more of a problem with that than the fact that Roosevelt was in a wheelchair. Right? I don't give a shit if he could play basketball or not. The policy is what I like. That's what it is.
Pharma companies. Well, guess what? We got it down to $35 for insulin instead of $400. No more than $2,000 for every senior, no matter how much prescription they need. You know what that did? That reduced the federal debt by $160 billion over 10 years because the government doesn't have to pay the exorbitant prices. I'm going to make that available to every senior all along. It's happening now, and everybody in America. He wants to get rid of that. I'm going to make sure that we have child care. We're going to significantly increase the credit people have for child care. I'm going to make sure we do something about what we're doing on lead pipes and all the things that are causing health problems for people across the country. We're going to continue to fight to bring down inflation and give people a break.
Thank you, President.
All right. So, by the way, if you'll notice, he's looking at the clock. They've got a clock in front of him for that 2 minutes. You could tell he's riding that clock. I would be less concerned with it. And I would also say don't try to fill the 2 minutes. Say your statement, and if there's 20 seconds left, let it ride. But he got the other stuff in there. And again, Boston Brian and I talked about this. I would have hit Roe v. Wade on the way out the door. Now, there's going to be a ton of talk about that as they get closer, and that would be almost the entire focus of the next debate.
Biden, President Trump, you now have 2 minutes for your closing statement.
Like so many politicians, this man is just a complainer. He said, we want to do this, we want to do that, we want to get rid of this tax, that tax. But he doesn't do anything. All he does is make our country unsafe by allowing millions and millions of people to pour in. Our military doesn't respect him. We look like fools in Afghanistan. We didn't stop Israel.
Yeah, again, the Afghanistan thing, he just keeps flogging that. And I don't know somebody around him had to have told him that was a winning thing. We're out. After 21 years, we were out. And we're still out. We haven't committed troops to anywhere new. It's especially boots on the ground, except for I would argue the pier outside of Gaza where we were delivering aid.
It was such a horrible thing that would have never happened. It should have never happened. Iran was broke. Anybody that did business with Iran, including China, they couldn't do business with the United States.
He gave South Korea a pass. The $6 billion that was in the bank account that we were going to use to negotiate the release of the hostages came from the sale of Iranian oil to South Korea. It wasn't even money we were going to give them. We were going to release money from their oil sales that had been frozen. It was frozen after they had made those sales during his administration, and there was a news story about it that he's letting Iran sell oil again, and he shut it down because he got caught, got embarrassed by it.
Passed. Iran was broke. They had no money for Hamas or Hezbollah, for terror, no money whatsoever. Again, Ukraine should have never happened. He talks about all this stuff, but he didn't do it. For 3.5 years, we're living in hell.
Yeah, we're not. We're so not.
The Palestinians, and we have everybody else rioting all over the place.
Yeah, the Palestinians are not rioting. Just for the record, I think what he means is the protesters who support the Palestinians. He thinks those people are Palestinians. Just real clear, just so we're clear. Also, he shit his pants earlier.
You talk about Charlottesville. This is 100 times Charlottesville, 1,000 times. The whole country is exploding because of you.
Yeah, so he's talking about and no, it isn't. Again, the Jews will not replace us crowd of Charlottesville is a lot more overt in their anti-Semitism, and there's plenty amongst the faux pro-Palestinian, the faux Palestinian folks that he's talking about for days. But there was a coordinated march against Jews in that one with the Tiki Torch crowd.
Because they don't respect you, and they have to respect their president, and they don't respect you throughout the world. What we did was incredible. We rebuilt the military. We got the largest tax cut in history, the largest regulation cut in history. The reason he's got jobs is because I cut the regulations that gave jobs, but he's putting a lot of those regulations back on. All of the things that...
Again, which regulations? Name one. Name one you took off that added jobs and didn't cause like train crashes full of chemicals, by the way, a couple of years later. I'm serious. The whole like biggest regulation cut, cool. This is like Giuliani and his fucking affidavits. So Giuliani's got these stacks of paper. Look at all these affidavits. All right, then why are you testifying? Just read them. Just read them into record. I mean, after the 10th one, people would go, stop. Okay, there was election fraud, right? If those affidavits have what they say they do in them, just read them. Read them into the record. Pick one at random. Same thing. If migrant crime is so crazy, how do you even have the ability to know the names of any of the victims? Wouldn't there be so many? That, you know, the spike is so huge, it's like you can't even keep track. You'd be like, there's like 25 different girls. One of them was blah, blah, blah. But you can't. It's the same number as it was under his presidency.
We've done, nobody's never seen anything like, even from a medical standpoint, right to try, where we can try space-age materials instead of...
Yes, that's what we used. On people who have cancer, we used space-age materials. Hey, but at least he didn't stutter when he said it. So, you know, that's a win. What the fuck are you... What? What do you mean, Velcro? What are you talking... What space-age materials? We allowed people to take a spoonful of moon dust. Good Lord.
Going to Asia or going to Europe and trying to get, when you're terminally ill, now you can go and you can get something. You sign a document. They've been trying to get it for 42 years. But you know what we did for the military was incredible. Choice for our soldiers.
Okay, he didn't do that. Again, this is a lie. Real quick. Just real quick. On his way out the fucking door, I thought he had buried this lie a long time ago. He did not do anything even remotely close to the VA Choice Act. That was passed in 2014. They updated it because it was on an update schedule. We'll look at it in a couple of years and we'll do that. That's the bill that was in front of him where they made some modifications. You know what the modification was, by the way? You know what the difference between what Trump signed and this bill is? That in this bill, if you were 45 minutes from a VA facility, you could find a local doctor. You didn't have to drive 45 minutes. The new one said 30 minutes. That's it. They shortened it by 15 minutes. This is the only basic change that they made in the whole goddamn thing. That's the modification he made. And it passed through Congress. It came out of committee. It was like, it was a regular like update that you have to any bill. And here's Donald Trump, and every one of his followers is completely comfortable with him lying about and to veterans. Hey, maggots, why are you cool with this? The VA Choice Act was passed in 2014. A Republican wrote it. And yet, and he, by the way, he'd blown off this lie a while back, and now he's bringing it back?
Soldiers, instead of waiting for 3 months to see a doctor, can go out and get themselves fixed up and readied up and take care of themselves, and they're living. And
readied up?
That's why I had the highest approval rating in the history of the VA.
No, he had the highest approval rating in the history of the VA because the VA Choice Act of 2014 kicked in over the next 2 years. All changes in massive bureaucracies like the VA take time. So they implemented it. They ran through what the rules would be over the course of the next 6 months. And then they started going through it. They started doing evaluations of the people who work for the VA and got those people kicked out. Right? That was part of the accountability aspect of it. They changed. They made like judgment. They had to send people around to hospitals and places and say, okay, if this is inside, what qualifies as a place that's good enough for somebody? If you're not going to the VA, it has to be someplace where you'll get at least equal care. So we got to go check out these hospitals or at least make sure they qualify. Yeah. He's just lying to veterans and about veterans. He did not create or sign this for the first time in fucking anything. Ever, not ever, anywhere, not ever. And maggots, specifically, are really comfortable with him lying to and about veterans all the time. He's been doing this bullshit for years. All right, we're almost done.
So all of these things, we're in a failing nation, but it's not.
Yeah, unless you look at the economy and job rates and education rates and yeah.
Not going to be failing anymore. We're going to make it great again.
Thank you, former President Trump, President Biden. Stay with us because we have full analysis of this debate. Anderson Cooper and Aaron Burnett starts.
And that's it. Ladies and gentlemen, look at you guys. We made it through. Hold on. Chat room. Hi, everybody. How get no castle on your show? I will. That's a good idea. Hold on. Let me shut this down real quick. And close this guy. So I, you know, as a postmortem, I thought this was, especially at the very beginning of it, I was like, ooh, this is going to be rough. And my goal was not to spin this genuinely. I mean, obviously none of the maggots in the crowd are going to believe it. But my goal was not to spin this. It was more like, you know how I like to be. I give advice. Here's how you could fix this. Hence the lozenge and the admission at the beginning that he had a sore throat. I was a little surprised when we caught the fact that Trump shit his pants on live television. It's for those of you that missed that. What was it? What was the number on it? 11440. I should probably make a. Yeah, was that it? 11645. Thank you. 116. I should probably make that a. Yeah, let's see, 116. Yeah, it was like 11640 was really when he did it. Hold on. See if I can find it. Oh, shit, I forgot. I opened the wrong page again. God damn it. I had to close the other browser. Sorry. There we go. And I'll get it back just so we can cover that one more time. Shrink down, you silly thing. And then we go down to here. 116. There we go. 116. There we go. Here we go. This would be, and I've got to shrink this page down again because I don't know why it's blown up. Makes no sense. In here.
Afraid to deal with them or something. But do you notice he never took out my tariffs because we bring in so much money with the tariffs that I imposed on China. He never took them away. He can't because it's too much money. It's tremendous. And we saved our steel industries, and there was more to come.
I've got to, here's what I have to do, though. Hold on 1 second. Let me pop this back down since this is CNN. And let's see if I can bounce back. Yeah. So I'll make as long as I say make a clip. There you go, 116.29 to 116. What was it? 45. We'll just do 116.35. There we go. And I don't know what, like the graphics on this is like. This is just ass. What is happening? There we go. Preview the clip.
Imposed on China. He never took them away. He can't because it's too much money. It's tremendous. And we saved our steel industries, and there was more to come. But he has.
Okay, so that is, that's the whole thing. That's the clip. Now, how do I got to shrink this page down. I don't know why the fuck this thing's so weird. Okay, next. Title. Trump craps his pants. Trump audibly, I could spell, hold on, sharts during CNN debate. All other mics are off. Let's see, save clip. Cool. Now how do I, why is this?
Hasn't done that. But he hasn't cut the tariffs because he can't, because it's too much money. But he's got the largest deficit in the history of our country, and he's got the worst situation with China. China's going to own us if you keep allowing them to do what they're doing to us.
Okay, hold on. Does this shrink back down? That's where we prove that he was clip created. Your clip has been created. Okay, cool. We'll copy that link, and I'm putting that in the chat so I can hang on to that, and then go. We should just go straight to. Hold on, chat room. I'm gonna put that. I'll put it in the. For those of you that want it, there's the link. And then we'll go to, I think I have X, is Twitter on here? It's taking a moment, but yeah. There we go. Trump audibly shits, pants during debate. There we go. Hold on. NTS. I'm tweeting that out right now. Let's see. Yeah. And what was the hashtag? Anybody know what the big hashtag was on the debate? So I can make sure it gets elevated to the, let's see, I'll just put hashtag debate night and hashtag debate 2024, like that. Let's see, and I'm going to back it up because I want to hear what was the last word right before he said it. 26, let's go there.
Do you notice he never took out my tariffs because we bring in so much money with the tariffs that I imposed on China? He never took them away. He can't because it's too much money. It's tremendous.
Oh, God. Let's see. Listen right after he says he can't because it's too much money. Trump's mic is the only live mic. I'm posting this on Shitter real quick. Here we go. I think we should just call it Shart Night. And by the way, I'm posting this to Bob Cesca. Trump shit his pants on live TV. And then I will grin at him because that's the kind of asshole I am. Where is this? There we go. The link is out there if you want to share it about, kids. Yep. There we go. Link check works. Does it work okay? Oh, the link doesn't work? Fuck. Shit. Oh. Oh, do I have to? Let's see. Damn it. It didn't work? You send it to Midas Touch? Okay, I will. I'll tell you what, I'll sign off and I'll fix that thing and I'll download a version of it and I'll make the link pop up. I'll make a video of it. Yeah. Screen record it? That's a good idea. Hold on one second. Yeah, that's a good idea. We'll just do that right now. While we're all here, shall we? Okay, here we go. Bink. Let me go back to this. And it was 116. I'll go 116.36, a good place to start. I'll turn off the closed captions. We'll go to the comms real quick. I'm going to turn on my recording widget on here, and I'm just going to post the thing right here. And let me do this. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed debate night. I know there's a lot of wailing and gnashing of teeth and rending of garments, but I think the key moment of the evening, if I can give it to you, of course, is the time Donald John Trump, who's only person here whose mic is on at the moment, shits his pants on live television. Listen carefully after the words, "It's too much money."
Do you notice he never took out my tariffs because we bring in so much money with the tariffs that I imposed on China? He never took them away. He can't because it's too much money. It's tremendous. And we saved our steel industries and the...
Oh, is this? That's good stuff. I'll be posting this video in just a few moments. I'm trying to fix the link. Hold on. I don't think they allowed my link to go through. So I have a recording of it, and I will, hold on. I will post that as soon as I sign off. Yeah. So thank you for that idea. Whoever was doing it, I should, God, it's so gross. So, yeah. Woof. All right. I will put it on both my YouTube channel as a short, and I will also put it on as my, on my Twitter feed. Yeah, and I'll boost the audio too if I can, so everybody can really hear it. Well, shit. Let's just do it again for old time's sake. Hold on. Go back to here. Get back here, you dick.
Tariffs because we bring in so much money with the tariffs that I imposed on China. He never took them away. He can't because it's too much money. It's tremendous, and we saved our steel industries.
There he is. One more time, everybody. Hold on one second. Let me do this again, and I'll make a clip out of it. And by the way, you can clip this stuff on Twitch if you want, twitch.tv/HalSparks. Anybody who's on Twitch, you can make clips of those moments or moments out of the show, and you can post them around. Same thing with YouTube. You can make clips as well. So I'm going to boost this as loud as I can so people can hear it. Let's see. Yeah, there we go.
There was more to come, but he hasn't done that. Money with the tariffs that I imposed on China. He never took them away. He can't because it's too much money. It's tremendous, and we saved our steel industries, and there was more to come, but he hasn't done that.
Okay, there we go. Now, much love to you guys. Again, it's 1:16. Just tell everybody 1:16:40 essentially is the moment, and share that out. And I'll post this video as soon as I sign off with you guys. All right, much love, and I will see you guys tomorrow for Friday Eye. Like and subscribe and show up. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, my show exists because of patreon.com/HalSparks and all the people who super chat and support the show and have for a very long time. And I love you guys. And without this show, I think the world would have missed the fact that Donald Trump shit his pants on national television in what may be the only debate of the season, and also Biden wasn't nearly as bad as everyone said. You're welcome. And he certainly didn't shit himself that we know of. And at least he had the decency to do it when his mic was off. And also, if you're going to contribute, now would be a good time to contribute to Biden and say, give a big middle finger to everybody who's nervous about it. I'll send it to Midas Touch. Don't worry. Okay. Talk to you guys later. Have a great night. Love you guys. Thank you for joining me, and thank you for the gift of your time. I can't tell you how much I love it. You're just lovely. That's all. Okay, bye. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed debate night. I know there's a lot of wailing and gnashing of teeth and rending of garments, but I think the key moment of the evening, if I can give it to you, of course, is the time Donald John Trump, who's only person here whose mic is on at the moment, shits his pants on live television. Listen carefully after the words, "It's too much money."
Do you notice he never took out my tariffs because we bring in so much money with the tariffs that I imposed on China? He never took them away. He can't because it's too much money. It's tremendous. And we saved our steel industries and the...
Oh, what is this? That's good stuff. I'll be posting this video in just a few moments. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you... Thank you guys for the super chats. I just posted the video a couple of times on Twitter, and now I will post it as a separate clip on my YouTube channel right now. So you guys can share that out as a link. I'll, as a matter of fact, I can do it while I'm still in the background on the air if you guys can hang for a second. Done. There we go. And copy the link. Okay, here's a better link, everybody. I just made this, so feel free to share this out. Everywhere, far and wide. Look at that. Will do, Andrea. Thank you. Nice. Is it starting up right now? Hold on.